Explosions rocked the land as all of Xiantian City exploded. Countless fragments and dust devoured the place Han Zhenyu and the others had been. Bastards! Han Zhenyu, the horned expert, and the bird man roared at the same time. This sudden attack had come without any warning. Although they had moved to protect their fellow disciples, the explosions ended up killing over half of them. In the end, less than 50,000 of their disciples remained. And this was after Han Zhenyu had spread his metal energy over as many of the surrounding disciples as he could. That metal armor was the only reason they had survived. However, those disciples that survived were sent flying by the explosion. It was unknown where they all went. In any case, golden figures flashed through the air for an instant like a beautiful firework. But the power of this firework was truly terrifying. Over 80,000 Foundation forging experts disappeared without a trace. Han Zhenyu, the horned man, and the bird man were all infuriated, killing intent exploding out of them. They had never expected there to be such a terrifying mechanism installed beneath Xiantian City. In truth, this mechanism hadn't been for them. To be safe, Long Chen had established it as the final trap in case they couldn't defeat the Sea Demon army. It was just one extra trump card for the unexpected. Han Zhenyu and the others had quite the luck. They had stopped right above the bombs. It made Long Chen feel like they had wanted to be blown up. If he didn't oblige them, it would be a letdown for their confident stances. All of you can die. The three of them roared and summoned their heavenly Tao manifestations. They were all rank 7 celestials, and their auras caused the wind and clouds to change color. You can die instead. Guoran, there's no need to hold back. Detonate them all. Long Chen smiled and shot at the three of them. With Long Chen's order, Guoran activated all the remaining runes on the jade plate. The ground exploded. This was a minefield Guoran had made. When he had first created the bombs, he found that he had made them too powerful. They were far more terrifying than his exploding arrows. Other than the ones he had installed under Xiantian City, there had been some left over and he had ended up installing them all around the battlefield. Each one of them required Guoran's specific spiritual fluctuations to activate, or even if you broke them apart, they wouldn't explode. Of course, that was why Long Chen dared to place them there. The bombs were detonated one by one. Each one of them blew open a mass of sea demons. Hundreds of them detonated at the same time, instantly cleaning up all the sea demons on the battlefield. Guoran suddenly grabbed Song Mingyuan and gave him some directions, having him circulate his earth energy from a distance to pull out his remaining bombs. Then Wild would toss them amongst the sea demons that were still coming, while Guoran detonated them one by one. At this time, everyone's expressions were green. Bomb after bomb was pulled out from under their feet. Thinking about what would happen if they had detonated below them made them shiver. After seeing their power, their scalps turned numb. If one of them had accidentally exploded, they would have been done for. With the assistance of Guoran's bombs, the sea demons' numbers sharply dropped. Just at this time, the golden figures that had been blown away now returned to attack. Meng Qi, Tang Wan, Wild, Gu Yang, Yu Zifeng, Hua Xiu, and the others left the sea demons to the other disciples. They went to attack the heaven-suppressing magic sex people and the ancient race experts. At this moment, the importance of healing disciples revealed itself. They had continued such a high-intensity battle for so long, but the Dragonblood Legion's warriors were still in their optimal condition. Boom! The land suddenly trembled as Long Chen exchanged blows with Han Zhenyu, the horned expert, and the bird man. Long Chen's divine ring shook heaven and earth, for stars revolved in his eyes, and green scales covered his body. A blood-colored saber image tore through the sky. All the disciples looked over to see Long Chen send the three of them flying in one attack. Boss is mighty! The Dragonblood Legion erupted into heaven-shaking cheers. In just the first exchange, Long Chen was using his full power. He clearly wanted to end the battle as soon as possible. Just this first exchange gave the Xiantian Dao sect's side a boost in morale. Their previous fear was swept away, and they slaughtered the sea demons. As fewer and fewer sea demons appeared, more and more of the Xiantian Dao sect's disciples began attacking the heaven-suppressing magic sect and ancient races experts. The people who had come this time were the elites of their respective powers. They had hundreds of rank 6 celestials, and the rest were basically all rank 5. At first, both sides were able to fight equally. But the Xiantian Dao sect's disciples quickly took the advantage. More and more of them were joining in, pressuring the opponents greatly. After Cloud killed a mass of sea demons, Meng Qi called it back over to join their side. Its addition immediately caused panic amongst their enemies. Cloud was just too fast. They would only see a huge rainbow-colored light before being killed. It was impossible to even see its body. As they fought intensely, Long Chen was fighting against 3 rank 7 celestials. They were like stars colliding against each other. He had fought against 2 of them before, but the Birdman who had come from the ancient races was extremely powerful. He had iron feathers covering his body and a black spear in his hands. It was a powerful king item, and he was actually using some kind of secret art to unleash its power. Each attack shook the void and caused the stars above to shudder. Han Zhenyu and the Horned Man had both suffered greatly at Long Chen's hands, and so they didn't dare to be careless. All of them were fighting all out. Boom. Suddenly, after an especially fierce collision, Long Chen shot back like a shooting star. The 3 of them had combined their attacks. Just as Long Chen was shooting back, the space behind him tore open, and a sword pierced at his back, shocking even Han Zhenyu and the others. They had no idea there had been another person hiding in the midst of their battle. "I've been waiting for you." Long Chen suddenly unleashed a burst of energy he had been accumulating for a long time. A fourth of his immortal platforms sent all their energy into 36 acupuncture points. "Split the heavens 4. Long Chen slashed his saber out, unleashing a huge saber image that seemed to fill the world. Rumbling filled the air as if the world couldn't bear its power. The master of the sword was filled with shock. He was naturally the Bloodkill Hall's assassin who had had 7 of his split bodies destroyed by Long Chen, Bloodkill 19. He was shocked to find that time and space around him had frozen. He could only watch as Long Chen's saber slashed down. It was like a heavenly saber capable of cutting apart the river of stars had been used on a housefly. Bloodkill 19 was instantly blown to bits, and the saber image smashed into the ground. The ground split open, and a huge ditch formed, reaching all the way to within the sea. Water exploded into the air mixed with lava, causing bursts of steam to erupt. All the sound in the world had been severed by this saber. People were only able to hear their own heartbeats. This terrifying saber should not have existed in this world. It caused the heavens, gods, and devils to quiver. Not good. Han Zhenyu, the horned expert, and the Birdman's expressions suddenly changed. Chanting filled the air as if gods were murmuring together. They felt a terrifying aura lock them down. That feeling was as though a devil god from hell had set its gaze on them. A fierce sensation of death filled their hearts, making them feel like they had been dunked in ice water. Starfall. A cry that seemed to come from above the 9 heavens rang out. A 3-meter globe fell from the sky at the 3 of them. It was a blindingly dazzling globe that was like a beautiful star that had reached the end of its lifespan and was about to blossom with its most brilliant light. "Both of you help me. Metal Earth Energy Yin-Yang Displace." Han Zhenyu slammed his hands on the ground. With him at the core, all the land within 3,000 miles turned golden yellow. But that still wasn't enough. The Horned Man and the Birdman both placed their hands on Han Zhenyu's back, pouring their blood qi and heavenly Dao energy into his body. Han Zhenyu wasn't the strongest, but in terms of defense, he was number 1. The 2 of them were both well aware of Han Zhenyu's power, so they poured all their energy into him without reserve. The ground suddenly transformed, becoming a huge golden lotus. The 3 of them stood at its core, with its petals forming defenses around them. All the vitality within this land was instantly sucked dry. All the vegetation withered. Once that life energy was sucked dry, countless runes appeared on the outside of the lotus. It formed a large light barrier. Boom! Just at this moment, Long Chen's starfall arrived and smashed into the golden lotus. Long Chen's starfall instantly smashed through the outer runic layers of the lotus. That seemingly exceptionally sturdy defense didn't have the slightest use. Starfall then struck the actual lotus. A huge hole appeared in it and Starfall continued toward its core. Boom! The huge lotus exploded, its fragments flying through the air. A wave of earth shrouded the clouds and shot into the distance. Even Meng Qi and the others who were far into the distance and prepared to go and help Long Chen were struck by the wave of earth. Great earthen protection. Song Mingyuan and Li Qi both circulated their earth energy, and the ground split open. Li Qi shouted, "Everyone, get in. Don't vainly think of running away, or you'll be killed." Li Qi's shout caused the disciples who were preparing to flee to immediately rush over. When the final person entered, the land closed, turning their vision dark. Boom! The two of them were almost unable to bear the power. Blood spurted from their mouths, shocking the disciples. A few hundred warriors of the Dragon Blood Legion went over to give them energy. Those warriors were also Earth attribute experts. Although their energy was not as pure as theirs, it finally had a use. With their help, Li Qi and Song Mingyuan had it much easier. But the pressure continued to rise until finally, the space they were in exploded and they were thrown into the air. Just as everyone thought they were about to die from the shockwaves, they found that it was over. The world had returned to normal. The dust had yet to scatter from the air. However, as experts, their divine sense immediately spread into the surroundings. They were horrified to find that the terrain had completely deformed. There was still lava erupting all over the place. Explosive sounds rang out in the distance, signifying that some people were still fighting intensely. They all flew over to see Long Chen was chasing after 3 people. Han Zhenyu, the horned expert, and the bird man were fleeing miserably. They were covered in blood and their auras were extremely weak. Even their manifestations had disappeared. They just managed to see Long Chen unleash a shocking saber attack, killing the horned expert from the heaven-suppressing magic sect. Nothing was more shocking than seeing a rank 7 celestial killed in front of them. After killing one, Long Chen shot after the other 2 like lightning. "Long Chen, don't kill me. I was only baited over by the heaven-suppressing magic sect. I have a special status, The bird man saw that there was no hope of fleeing and began to cry out. In reality, this wasn't related to the ancient races at all, even though Long Chen had once killed a rank 5 celestial from the ancient races from the Xiantiandao sect. The Xiantiandao sect had a good relationship with the ancient races. The ancient race experts envied the Xiantiandao sect's magical arts, and they were allowed to learn them as their disciples. And so the bird man had been enticed by the heaven-suppressing magic sect's bait, and adding on the conflicts between Long Chen and the ancient races in the eastern wasteland, he had decided to come. His side had undergone large-scale hunting in the sea. Hence, when the beast tide erupted, their defensive region hadn't come under attack from many sea demons. So he had just left them to a portion of his people before coming here. But who could have thought that rather than being able to kill Long Chen on reasonable grounds to get back the Eastern Wasteland's ancient race's honor, he would end up falling into such a miserable state. The star fall backed by the Nirvana scripture could destroy heaven and earth. The 3 of them had worked together to summon the strongest possible defense but had still almost died. Even their heavenly Tao energy had been exhausted, so they had no energy to heal. They could only watch as they were hunted down. And so he tried using his status to stay Long Chen's hand. But Long Chen's reply was split the heavens. Without any power to dodge, the bird man died with endless regret and remorse. Furthermore, Long Chen's attack contained his thunder force, making it so even his soul couldn't escape. The second rank 7 celestial was killed. Adding on blood kill 19, he had killed 3 rank 7 celestials. If they didn't personally see it, no one would have dared to believe it. Now, the only rank 7 celestial remaining of the original 4 was Han Zhenyu. He was covered in blood and his body was cracked all over as if it might shatter at any moment. If it hadn't been for his metal and earth energy giving him monstrous defense, he would have long since died. But even though he had survived, he was heavily injured, and his spiritual yuan was essentially exhausted. His current combat power was less than 1/10 of his norm. Even an ordinary dragon blood warrior could kill him. Han Zhenyu stopped running because he knew he couldn't run. Long Chen's power had far surpassed his expectations. Although Long Chen was also panting and his aura was starting to decline, he could still easily kill Han Zhenyu, who didn't have the slightest chance of running. Long Chen lazily rested Blood Drinker on his shoulder. He took stock of his remaining energy reserves and found he had less than a tenth of his spiritual yuan remaining. His expectations were on point. When using the Nirvana scripture with Starfall, its power would be boosted by over 10 times. At the same time, it was much more exhausting. Using the fourth form of Split the Heavens to kill Bloodkill 19 and then using Starfall at its peak had exhausted almost all his spiritual yuan. His immortal platforms were about to stop circulating, and his 4 Chi Cs were almost empty. But at least in comparison to Han Zhenyu, he was much better off. At the very least, killing Han Zhenyu would not be much more difficult than crushing an ant. Long Chen simply stared at him coldly. "I don't believe you dare to kill me." Han Zhenyu also stared back icily. Long Chen smiled contemptuously. "What badass words. I have a brother who would say that there was someone who also once said that, but the grass on his grave is over 3 meters tall now." In the distance, everyone looked oddly at Guoran. Guoran turned red. It was true he liked that kind of way of replying when encountering posers. "However, I will tell you that there were once people who said that to me, but they didn't even have the fortune of having a grave." Long Chen shook his head. Guoran couldn't help being filled with admiration. As expected, his boss could truly take him flying to new heights. This was a truly domineering, confident, meaningful, skillful, evolving style of posing. That was because it was the truth. "If you kill me, you won't survive either. I am someone from the Grand Han Ancient Nation's imperial family. If you kill me, the imperial court will be infuriated, and not even the Shen Dao sect will be able to protect you. My Grand Han's power isn't something you can imagine." Han Zhenyu looked at Long Chen without the slightest fear. "Wow, that sounds scary. I think I'll try it." Long Chen wasn't the slightest bit affected by his words. He simply slashed Blood Drinker down. But just as Blood Drinker was about to reach Han Zhenyu's head, a ray of light shot out of his forehead, blocking Long Chen's saber. At the same time, an image appeared behind Han Zhenyu. Within the image was an elder in violet gold robes and a crown on his head. He sternly shouted, "Who are you? Why would you kill my Grand Han's imperial family's descendant?" That figure caused Long Chen to jump, but he quickly realized it was just a projection. It was only able to scare people. "Because he killed my brothers." Looking at this imposing figure, Long Chen's heart shook. This person was probably someone on the same level as the Shen Master. "Do you know that what you're doing is a provocation to my Grand Han imperial family?" demanded the elder. Long Chen immediately sneered, "Provocation? I don't like that word. Don't try to act like you're some supreme existence in front of me. Your descendants killing my brothers is reasonable, but when I get revenge for my brothers it's a provocation. Are you an idiot?" He had heard of the Grand Han Ancient Nation. Back then, Ma Xingkong had also once tried using its name to intimidate the Shen Master. It had to be a terrifying existence. Originally, if the Grand Han expert wished to peacefully settle things, perhaps there would have been the slightest chance Long Chen could have spared Han Zhenyu's life. After all, Han Zhenyu had never personally killed disciples of the Shen Dao sect. But instead, this Grand Han expert acted like he was number one beneath the heavens, as if others were just ants. Long Chen's fury immediately soared. "Brat, you are courting death. Which sect are you from? Which family?" roared the elder. "Fuck off, old idiot. I can't believe I've wasted so many words on you. I'm also getting idiotic." But Long Chen ignored him and slashed Blood Drinker on the barrier once more, causing it to shudder and rapidly dim. "Imperial Uncle, this person is one of the Shen Dao sect's disciples. You must get vengeance for your child." Han Zhenyu already knew his fate was sealed. The Grand Han was unable to intimidate Long Chen, and so he immediately cried out Long Chen's identity. Boom. Finally, the barrier could no longer endure and Long Chen's saber stabbed through Han Zhenyu's forehead. Its immense power directly blew apart his body, exterminating his soul along with him. "Good. Little brat, so it's the Shen Dao sect. Just wait to have your sect washed with blood. Those who provoke my Grand Han all have families killed to ninth bloodline dash. The elder roared as the image faded away. Fuck off. Long Chen didn't wait for the image to fade on its own. He slashed his saber, cutting it off. 4 powerful celestials had been killed. All the Xintian Dao sect's disciples were speechless, unable to say a word. Long Chen was too domineering. Even the Xintian Dao sect didn't dare to provoke the Grand Han. But Long Chen did. Long Chen. You really exceeded all my estimations. You were actually able to kill 4 rank 7 celestials on your own. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Suddenly, a burst of laughter rang out, causing everyone's expressions to change. Gao Xianyang, Hu Geishan. No one had expected that the 2 people to disappear from the battlefield would reappear now. Furthermore, their expressions clearly showed the malice in their hearts. Gao Xianyang, Hu Geishan, after fleeing in battle, you still have the face to return? Roared Fan Song. All the people who had been following Gao Xianyang were infuriated. This kind of conduct gravely hurt their hearts. They could have permitted any of Gao Xianyang's flaws. But the only thing they couldn't endure was betrayal. The other experts also looked at them furiously and with disdain. But the 2 of them didn't seem to care in the slightest. Meng Qi, Tang Wan'er, and the others flew to Long Chen's side. Long Chen was in a weak state now, and they were worried about a sneak attack. The healing disciples immediately unleashed healing art after healing art. Long Chen's exhausted body recovered slightly, and he was invigorated a great deal. However, he had still overused his spiritual yuan, and even his immortal platforms were entering a stagnant state. His current power was still not even 1/10 as high as normal. Long Chen narrowed his eyes as he looked at the 2 of them. Their fearless expressions caused him to also feel anger. Betrayal was the most painful feeling, because that could give a group a fatal blow. Have the 2 of you returned to face trial? Asked Long Chen as he recovered through the healing disciples. Over 200,000 disciples of the Xintian Dao sect surrounded the 2 of them. After this great battle, almost 1/3 of the original 300,000 disciples that had come to this region had died. Gao Xianyang and Hu Geishan didn't even look at those people. Gao Xianyang disdainfully said, "Trial? What qualifications do you have to put me on trial? We are no longer disciples of the Xintian Dao sect, we are..." The 2 of them tore off their disciple robes at the same time, revealing blood-red robes underneath, with a sinister fiendish face on their chests. Corrupt path. Everyone's pupils shrank. Weren't those robes only worn by the Corrupt Path's disciples? How could the 2 of them have put them on? Did they not want their lives anymore? Haha, correct, we are no longer disciples of the Xintian Dao sect, nor are we disciples of the righteous path. We've joined the Corrupt Path, laughed Gao Xianyang. Bastards, you not only betrayed the Dao sect, but you're also betraying the righteous path? Roared the disciples. From the conflicts between the 2 paths throughout history, many of these disciples' ancestors had died to the Corrupt Path. Practically everyone hated the Corrupt Path to the core. They wished they could tear them apart limb from limb. Seeing that the 2 of them had joined the Corrupt Path, countless people's eyes reddened, and killing intent exploded. Are you angry? Haha, keep getting angrier. You can bring your anger to the other world. Today, we made great contributions and will receive the Corrupt Path's full grooming. We don't have to eat leftovers in the Xintian Dao sect any longer. All of you will die, while we will become top experts of the Corrupt Path. Even your friends and family will continue dying to our hands. But don't worry, that way, you'll all be in that world together and won't get lonely, laughed Gao Xianyang. Kill them. Gao Xianyang's arrogance ignited all their fury, and countless disciples charged at the 2 of them. Suddenly, the sky rumbled. Everyone hastily looked up to see that at some unknown point, the world had become covered in a layer of black mist. Because it was night, no one had sensed the change in the sky. Now, they noticed that the black mist was comprised of fiendish runes. Do you know what we were doing before? Yes, we were activating this grand formation. Everything within 100,000 miles has been sealed off. You're just birds in a cage now. Righteous path idiots, Have fun in your endless remorse." Gao Xinyang laughed crazily. One after another, people began to descend from the sky. They were all wearing the corrupt path's robes, and the fiendish images on their chests were even clearer, looking like real living fiends. Their auras were also extremely terrifying, making it so others couldn't breathe. All the disciples' expressions changed. These are experts on the level of the hall masters. Long Chen's pupils shrank upon seeing these people. There were a total of 8 hall master level experts. As soon as they appeared, they extended their hands, unleashing black runes that further strengthened the black mist in the sky. Not good. They're isolating their chi so that the outside world can't sense them. Meng Qi's expression changed. This region had a special grand formation that prevented experts above the king level from coming in. If any expert surpassing that level entered, it would immediately be sensed and activate an alarm. However, Gao Xinyang and Hu Guishan had already established a counter-formation that allowed these people to enter. And these experts immediately strengthened the formation. But suddenly, over 100 new figures entered. They were all wearing the corrupt path's robes, but Long Chen saw 2 familiar faces. Hall Master, Vice Hall Master. The Xintian Dao sect's disciples let out startled cries. These 2 were the law enforcement hall's Luo Fan and his assistant, the Vice Hall Master. Other than those 2, the rest were all the corrupt path's powerful experts. A quick count put them at 108 king-level experts and 16 hall master-level experts. They now surrounded all Xintian Dao sect's disciples, and looking at their positions, it seemed they were in a strange formation. "Do you know Long Chen? I really hate you to the core." Luo Fan stood outside their formation, glaring at Long Chen and clenching his teeth. Long Chen nodded. "I know. There's no need to say so much, as that would be bad for your future. Since you've joined the corrupt path, you should say some more words to suck up. The more you display your hatred for me, the more it shows you were unwilling to leave the post you had for so many years. That would make your new masters doubt you, and maybe they'll even silently eliminate you." Luo Fan's expression changed. Long Chen's words struck him like a hammer in his heart. He had truly thrown his lot in with the corrupt path, because he no longer saw any hope in the Xintian Dao sect. His old ally had been killed, his old opponent had been promoted to Vice Xian Master, while the law enforcement hall's power had fractured. He had already lost all his authority. One of his Vice Hall Masters had once advised him to join the Heaven-Suppressing Magic Sect. After all, the Heaven-Suppressing Magic Sect had the Pill Tower support, and so he would have greater prospects there than in the Xintian Dao sect. Luo Fan had been unwilling this whole time, until finally he had agreed to a plot with the Vice Hall Master's advice. This plot's goal was to kill Long Chen and the others. He had left behind a clone in the Xintian Dao sect to deceive others, while his true body and the Vice Hall Master secretly left the Dao sect. They had rushed over to the Eastern Sea, but as soon as he had arrived, his expression had completely changed. What had been waiting for him was not the Xintian Dao sect's disciples, but a mass of the corrupt path's disciples. The Vice Hall Master revealed his identity as one of the corrupt path's members. Luo Fan had been given 2 choices. He could cooperate or he could be killed. In the end, he chose the former, because the corrupt path gave him a very generous promise. With the corrupt path's help, Luo Fan had, through the hands of his 2 trusted subordinates, Gao Xinyang and Hu Guishan, established a heaven-deceiving formation to block all their auras. The righteous path would not be able to sense them. Although Luo Fan appeared very mighty now, he actually had no confidence inside. After all, he had betrayed the righteous path. This was not his original intent, but he had been forced to. Now looking at Long Chen, he was naturally filled with fury. He felt like all of this was Long Chen's fault. And yet, Long Chen's words were also correct. The more he expressed his hatred for Long Chen, the more it expressed that he was resentful about his current position. That would make the corrupt path's experts feel like he didn't sincerely want to join the corrupt path, and just like Long Chen said, it was likely that after this matter was over, he would be killed. Not bad, not bad. Even in the face of death, you can still be so calm. Worthy of being first on the Eastern Wasteland's corrupt path's must-kill list. Another black-robed figure appeared in the sky. He had a black gold crown on his head. Heaven and earth rumbled with his voice, and a formless pressure descended that made everyone feel like their blood was about to stop circulating. All of them turned pale as paper. It was like this person could take their lives at any moment. An expert on the level of the Xian Master? I, Long Chen, am truly blessed to have such a supreme expert come and attack me, laughed Long Chen. This was definitely something worthy of pride. There was no way around that. Your fate is very strange, and based on the information received from the Eastern Wasteland, your karmic luck is heaven-defying. You somehow escaped the corrupt path's traps countless times. You've inflicted heavy losses on us time and time again. Previously, you kept hiding in the Shintian Dao sect, making it so we couldn't do anything to you, but now you've finally come out. We're not going to be careless this time. This time, we're making sure to eliminate you, said that powerful expert. Ah, amazing. Let this junior praise you for your cautiousness. Long Chen gave him a thumbs up. Many thanks for your praise. It was precisely this cautiousness that allowed me to reach my current position. Others sneer at me for being overly cautious, but I've rarely suffered a loss in my life. So today, Long Chen, you definitely won't be able to get away. We sent out 8 soul transformation experts and 108 jade core experts. In truth, this isn't really overkill, because you are all elites of the Shintian Dao sect. I needed this many people to form a grand formation to extract all your souls. By torturing your souls into resentful spirits, I can refine a precious soul vengeance bead. A soul vengeance bead refined from the souls of over 200,000 elite disciples will definitely be a top-grade one. However, Long Chen, I can give you one chance to live, said the top corrupt expert. Oh, I'm this fortunate? Long Chen was a bit surprised. As long as you are willing to let me place the corrupt god's blood slave seal on you and you swear your loyalty to me, I can let you live. Then if I agree, can you satisfy one request from me? Asked Long Chen suddenly. What request? Asked the corrupt path's top expert. The reason I'd be enslaved would be because of those 4 idiots. Can I kill them as revenge first? Long Chen pointed to Luo Fan, Hu Geishan, Gao Xianyang, and the Vice Hallmaster. Their expressions all changed. Long Chen was actually this vicious? Long Chen, don't play such useless schemes with me. My patience is limited, so treasure this opportunity, said the corrupt expert coldly. It's not that I'm playing schemes with you. Moreover, I couldn't possibly out-scheme old ghosts like you who have lived for countless years. But have not heard of a certain saying? Even the best plan from the wisest person can still be mistaken. Although you can count as a wise man, when it comes to intelligence and scheming, you're a far cry from a certain person. Long Chen shook his head. But an ancient mirror flew out of Long Chen's forehead. It immediately unleashed boundless light. Not good. It's the reincarnation mirror, cried Luo Fan. But it was too late. As soon as the reincarnation mirror appeared, Long Chen and all the other Shintian Dao sect's disciples were protected by the light and disappeared from the corrupt path's sight. At the same time, a blazing ray of light pierced through the mist in the sky, breaking their formation. An ancient mirror had also appeared in the sky. It was like a fierce sun lighting up the entire world. Its power caused the heavens to shake as if the world couldn't bear its existence. Long Chen and the others appeared tens of thousands of miles away. All of the disciples were staring blankly, not knowing what had happened. The Xian Master had appeared at their original location. The reincarnation mirror behind him was constantly revolving, unleashing boundless light that enveloped all the corrupt path's experts. At the same time, Lu Tsong and dozens of Hall Master-level experts showed up in the air. Each one of them held a ray of light in their hands. This light was actually an ancient rune that formed a huge formation in the air. Originally, I thought this net would only catch a few small fish. I didn't expect such a large fish to swim in. Long Chen, well done. The Xian Master looked at the corrupt experts below. Even with his calm nature, he was excited. Long Chen bitterly smiled inside. This chess move of the Xian Master's was truly huge. And looking at the current state, it was like each step had been within his expectations. Before Long Chen had come to the Eastern Sea, the Shen Master had given the reincarnation mirror's secondary mirror to Long Chen. It had the ability to connect to the primary mirror, and as soon as Long Chen was trapped, the Shen Master had learned of it. In truth, the Shen Master had known what would happen as soon as Luo Fan had left. Hence, he had left the Tower Department head in charge of the sect, and just in case, he had even brought the sect's divine item. Fortunately he had, or with a foe on his level present, it would be unknown who would win. And even if he could beat the peak corrupt expert, he wouldn't be able to kill him. But with the reincarnation mirror, all these people had become turtles trapped in a jar. They couldn't even run. The corrupt path side was absolutely shocked. Under the radiance of the reincarnation mirror, they couldn't see anything outside. The Shen Master formed hand seals, and the reincarnation mirror began to rapidly revolve. A terrifying pressure caused the stars to shake, causing heaven and earth to violently tremble. At this time, the runes in Lu Tsang and the others' hands grew blindingly bright as they poured their own energy into the formation. Ah! Miserable screams rang out from the corrupt path. Long Chen was shocked to find that within that blinding light, one figure after another was being sucked into the reincarnation mirror. The corrupt path's kings didn't even have a chance to resist, and they were all drawn in. The Hall Master-level experts were only able to endure for a breath. Only the peak expert had black chi erupt from his body and block the blazing light. But in front of the reincarnation mirror, everything he did was in vain. He lasted only a dozen breaths' time before being sucked into the reincarnation mirror. The light faded, and the Shen Master put away the reincarnation mirror. Lu Tsang and the others sighed with relief. We got rich this time. These corrupt experts can be exchanged for thousands of years of resources for the Shintian Dao sect. Lu Tsang was extremely emotional. The righteous path had the Martial Heaven Alliance, and all the righteous sects would send a few tax payments each year. This tax had become a reward system. Each sect could get rewards from the Martial Heaven Alliance through killing experts from the corrupt path. The amount of the reward depended on the status and cultivation base of the slain corrupt experts. Originally, the Shen Master thought that catching 2 Hall Master-level experts would be pretty good. That was a rather large gain. He hadn't expected the corrupt path to have raised such a cautious expert who liked to do things personally. As a result, he had caught a large fish, and an extremely large one at that. Just this one fish could make the Shintian Dao sect fat. Seeing that the corrupt experts had been put in order, the disciples cheered. The Shen Master was extremely happy, and he praised Long Chen. All this is thanks to you, Long Chen. The Shen Master couldn't help but feel emotional. Despite all his plans, there had still been many unexpected factors. If, in that critical moment at the end of the Beast Tide, Long Chen hadn't been able to handle the ancient races, the heaven-suppressing magic sect, and the Bloodkill Hall's attack, all his plans would have been wasted. Fortunately, Long Chen had given the Shen Master a pleasant surprise and perfectly completed his plans. It's all thanks to the Shen Master's flawless plan. Long Chen shook his head. When it came to scheming, he would never be able to catch up to the Shen Master. This was something the Shen Master had set into motion hundreds of years ago. Now it had fully ripened, and the only thing left had been to reap it. In comparison, the explosion of the Alchemy Pavilion was a single hair loss, while they had now gained a full bull. This investment was truly worthwhile. It was no wonder the Shen Master had warned Long Chen so many times that he had to learn self-control. Although the Shintian Dao sect had looked chaotic, everything had been within the Shen Master's control. As for the Dragonblood Legion, although they looked well and strong, there were many things that were not within Long Chen's control. Suddenly, the Shen Master waved a hand, and a figure appeared in front of everyone. It was Luo Fan. Shen Master, spare my life. Disciple, Luo Fan suddenly knelt on the ground remorsefully. The Shen Master shook his head. There's no need to say anything. I know everything about you. The one who should be saying sorry is me. I used you for my own needs. I used your selfish nature, I used your stubbornness, I used your inability to accept things. Everything about you had me in the background. As for your Vice Hall Master, I knew he was a spy from the corrupt path the minute he entered the Shintian Dao sect, but I intentionally put him at your side. I acted like I didn't care about your fight with Ludsong. I saw you getting arrogant, expanding the law enforcement hall's power, getting greedy for more, but I didn't once warn you. And so, I knew what would happen today, and the truth is, I used you. So you don't need to apologize for your mistakes. Shen Master, Luo Fan stared at him blankly. Instead of killing him, the Shen Master was admitting his own mistakes? I won't punish you. Leave, and don't come back to the Shintian Dao sect. The land beneath the heavens is boundless, and you can go anywhere. However, due to the fact we were once from the same sect, let me tell you one thing. You're too selfish and not wise enough. If you don't learn how to reserve your character, then no matter what sect you end up in, you won't have a good ending. That's all I have to say, so do your best. Go. The Shen Master waved his hand. Shen Master, disciple wishes to stay in the Shintian Dao sect. Disciple will definitely change his ways. Begged Luo Fan. In this world, anything can be changed. But the hardest thing to change is a person's nature. It's not something that can be changed just because you say you will. Go. The Shen Master shook his head. In the end, Luo Fan kowtowed toward the Shen Master 3 times and left dejectedly. Everyone was silent. Ludsong couldn't help but sigh. Looking at the direction Luo Fan had gone, he asked, Shen Master, why didn't you give him a chance to change his ways? I already gave him that chance. The things that Luo Fan has done selfishly over the past few years are enough for me to kill him. But after all, I was the one using him, and I'd feel guilty killing him. Don't think he looks like he's been enlightened of his ways now. It won't be long before his old character once more resurfaces. If he was kept in the Shintian Dao sect, he would be a ticking bomb. If he could betray the sect once, he could betray it a second time. So he can't be left in the Dao sect. As for what path he takes, that's his own decision, said the Shen Master. Suddenly, the Shen Master slammed his palm forward. Who's there? Li Tianxian, how brazen of you to plot to kill my heaven-suppressing magic sect's disciples and even the ancient races. A tear in space appeared because of his palm, and a large group of people suddenly appeared. Ma Xingkong of the heaven-suppressing magic sect appeared, and beside him was an ancient race elder with a single horn on his head. His horn looked like the rank 7 celestial's horn from the heaven-suppressing magic sect Long Chen had killed, except this horn was a violet gold color and was shining with glaring light. Behind him were hundreds of experts. There were over 10 Hall Master-level experts, and the rest were kings. The atmosphere instantly became hostile. The Shen Master coldly smiled. Ma Xingkong, have you grown foolish with age? I'm clearer than anyone else on everything that happened, and there are all kinds of proof in my hands, including Gao Xianyang's life. A simple soul search will reveal the truth. It will also expose your intention of killing my Shintian Dao sect's disciples and colluding with the ancient races. So have you come here to cry after having your side slaughtered instead? The Shen Master didn't find it curious that Ma Xingkong and others would arrive. He knew that something as huge as using the reincarnation mirror would draw over people from the Martial Heaven Alliance. However, Ma Xingkong and the others had arrived first. Just as they stealthily approached in preparation of forming a formation, their plans were ruined by a wave of the Shen Master's hand. Although the Beast Tide was one of the best opportunities to temper their disciples, the sects all had a second line of defense. They definitely wouldn't allow the sea demons to slaughter the innocent commoners. Behind the primary defensive line was a second line. But if the primary defensive line composed of the disciples was not able to stop the sea demons and the second defensive line was used, the sect would lose its qualifications to defend that region. The heaven-suppressing magic sect and the ancient race expert had been waiting to hear news of the annihilation of the Shintian Dao sect's disciples. But what had awaited them was news of the annihilation of their own disciples. Hence, they had immediately rushed on over here. Ma Xingkong, the reason I came here was just for you. Let's talk about justice, said the Shen Master coldly. You want to talk to me about justice? Raged Ma Xingkong, practically unable to believe his ears. Correct. You sent people to entice Gao Xianyang in an attempt to kill all my Dao sect's disciples. Furthermore, the master behind the scenes was actually the corrupt path. I suspect that you've colluded with the corrupt path, said the Xian master. Bullshit. How could I collude with the corrupt path? Ma Xingkong was infuriated, not even caring about his status and bursting into cursing. This infamy was not something he could let stand. But just at this time, another group of people appeared. They wore gray robes with a special design on their chests. It was an immortal character, Alliance. This was the mark of the Martial Heaven Alliance. They did not belong to any sect, but were a power elected from all the Central Plains Righteous Paths sections. They were in charge of the entire Righteous Path in the Central Plains. Only 7 of them had come, and the leader was only at the Hall Master level. But he still strictly shouted, "Why have you all come here? Someone colluded with the corrupt path to kill my Xiantian Dao sect's disciples, so I came here to counter them. I've captured many members of the corrupt path, but as for why the heaven-suppressing magic sect and ancient races would come here, you'd have to ask them," said the Xian master lightly. Although the Martial Heaven Alliance's people didn't have powerful cultivation bases, they represented the Martial Heaven Alliance. The Xian master had to personally reply. We. Seeing the Martial Heaven Alliance's people looking at them, Ma Xingkong didn't know how to reply. We were drawn over by the disturbance of the battle here. In comparison, the ancient race expert wasn't so intimidated. The ancient races only had a somewhat allied relationship with the Martial Heaven Alliance. They were not controlled by them. The ancient races had their own alliance, and it was neutral in the fight between the righteous and the corrupt path. But to get more profits, they split the mission of defending the sea, so they also had to follow a few of the rules of the Martial Heaven Alliance. Then, since the beast tide has ended, everyone can come over to the Alliance headquarters. As you are all masters of your own sects, I don't dare to make any rash decisions. Come with me. The expert from the Martial Heaven Alliance also felt this matter was too big for him to handle. He just needed to report it. In truth, he didn't want to offend any of these people. Hold on a moment. Suddenly, a sharp cry rang out and a group of people rushed over. The Xian master's eyes narrowed. These people were actually experts from Pill Tower, and one of them he recognized as the one who had caused trouble in the Xiantian Dao sect. Being interrupted, the Martial Heaven Alliance's expert's expression changed, and he was just about to scold them when he saw they were from the Pill Tower. He swallowed his curses and said, "Do you have any advice?" Behind the Pill Tower was Pill Valley, and they were also not within the scope of the Martial Heaven Alliance's administration. In fact, there were many things that the Martial Heaven Alliance needed Pill Valley's cooperation for, so he had no choice but to be a bit more courteous. I wouldn't dare to presume such a thing. But I have something huge I have to tell everyone. I rush day and night just to report it. The elder of the Pill Tower looked at Long Chen. Long Chen's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling. Just at this moment, another elder appeared behind the Pill Tower's expert. He wore Taoist robes and his hair was rolled up into Taoist bun. He looked like he possessed quite the transcendent manner. "It's you!" Long Chen and Hua Xiu cried out at the same time. This elder was precisely the one from the Heavenly Fate Pavilion who had placed the sorcery in Hua Xiu's body. "I am Taoist Xian Jizi, the master of the Heavenly Fate Pavilion within the Grand Han Ancient Nation. A few days ago, I was reading the stars and sensed great turmoil in the Central Plains. After a few calculations, I found that there is a Heaven Caesar who has started to rise in revolt, bringing a calamity to all lives," said Xian Jizi with a grand transcendent air. Long Chen was infuriated. This despicable bastard had actually chased him down here in order to frame him. Heavenly Fate Island was an extremely powerful existence even in regard to the entire continent. Although it wasn't as terrifying as Pill Valley, due to their abilities to peer into the secret workings of fate, everyone had to be respectful to them, and no one dared to offend them. Who is this Heaven Caesar? Mo Xingkong seemed to suddenly comprehend something. It's this person. The murderous aura on his body is extremely heavy as a result of stealing heaven and earth's fortunes, taking the lives of others in order to raise his own cultivation base. He is a Heaven Caesar. Xian Jizi pointed to Long Chen. What nonsense! Long Chen is a disciple of my Xiantian Dao sect. He has many friends who he cares deeply about. How could he be one of those solitary heaven Caesars that are the bane of others' existence? Now, even the Xian master was infuriated. This was clearly bullshit. He was clearer than anyone else about whether or not Long Chen was a heaven Caesar. The Xian master didn't know why this person would want to frame Long Chen. He just assumed that Pill Tower was trying to make things hard on him, and so they colluded with this person from the Heavenly Fate Pavilion. He didn't know that this was because Long Chen had gotten rid of Xian Jizi's sorcery. Moreover, Long Chen had found out one of Xian Jizi's secrets, and thus forced him to come here. I am a disciple of Heavenly Fate Island's inheritance, the master of my own Heavenly Fate Pavilion. How could I randomly spout nonsense? Just how much do you think you know about Heaven Caesars? Long Chen clearly is a variant amongst Heaven Caesars. He simply has some kind of treasure that shields him from fate. Otherwise, how could someone who is not even a celestial possess such immense power? Sneered Xian Jizi arrogantly. In reality, Xian Jizi had been shielded from Hua Shiyu's fate, and when he had tried to read Long Chen's fate, he had almost lost his life. He had received a heavy backlash from the heavenly Daos that had caused half his body to explode. It was only because he had reacted fast enough that he hadn't died. As soon as he had sensed the backlash, he had hidden his Yuan spirit. Long Chen brought him a sensation of grave terror and unease. He had started going through the people he had once placed some kind of sorcery on, and as a result, he had found Hua Shiyu. But Hua Shiyu's fate was still hidden from him, so he had begun to calculate the fates of the Xiantian Dao sect's other disciples. That was easier, and that was what had allowed him to find Long Chen's position. He had rushed straight toward the Eastern Sea. His goal was to completely eradicate Long Chen and Hua Shiyu. On the way, he had gathered quite a bit of information about Long Chen. He didn't dare to try reading Long Chen's fate again, so he began to try reading the fates of other people. That was how he ended up finding out that the Xiantian Dao sect had just had a conflict with the Pill Tower. At that time, he had come up with a plan to announce that Long Chen was a heaven Caesar and that he had powerful treasures on him. In order to remove a scourge from the heavens, he asked the Pill Tower to help, and in the process, conveniently get rich. Pill Tower naturally wouldn't refuse such a good thing. They could eliminate Long Chen and pressure the Xiantian Dao sect in one move. This didn't have the slightest drawback for them. In any case, they had Xian Jizi to testify that Long Chen was a heaven Caesar. Even if he was falsely accused, they were just accomplices. When the time came, Long Chen would be dead, and all the blame would be pushed onto the Heavenly Fate Pavilion. This was completely beneficial to the Pill Tower. Even if the truth was revealed in the end, all they would have to do was announce that it was one of their random workers who had ended up believing Heavenly Fate Pavilion slander. By pushing all the blame onto the worker and killing them, things would be easily settled. By saying this matter was all that person's fault and had nothing to do with the Pill Tower, they would be able to maintain their dignified position in the Central Plains. Do you see? Li Tianxian, the master of divining Taoist Xian Jizi, can guarantee that Long Chen is a heaven Caesar. Do you have anything else left to say? We're going to capture Long Chen right now, and we'll see if you have the guts to become enemies with the entire world. Everyone from the Martial Heaven Alliance, you've also seen this. This matter is too big for you to handle. Ma Xingkong immediately stretched his hand out toward Long Chen. Ma Xingkong didn't recognize the collusion between Xian Jizi and the Pill Tower. But he knew one thing: now he could openly kill Long Chen. The Xian master sent out a palm, forcing Ma Xingkong back. He shouted, "Don't deliberately slander others. I, Li Tianxian, will use my own head to guarantee that Long Chen definitely is not a heaven Caesar." Vicious liars. Do you think that my Xiantian Dao sect is easy to bully? I want to see just who dares to touch a single hair on my disciple's head. Seeing the Xian master actually protect Long Chen, Xian Jizi roared, "Li Tianxian, you dare to harbor a heaven Caesar? What are you planning? By raising a future calamity, do you think it will allow you to overturn the righteous path? Keep dreaming. Heaven Caesars always end up killing every person around them, and your conduct is throwing the entire righteous path into a horrible future. Don't waste words with him. Kill the heaven Caesar," shouted the ancient race expert. He immediately attacked, his fist blazing like a sun. However, not one of the Shintian Dao sect's disciples felt the slightest bit of warmth. His fist filled all of heaven and earth, causing all the disciples to turn pale. Let alone taking this fist, just the shockwaves would kill them hundreds of times over. At the same time as the ancient race expert took action, Ma Xingkong and the elder of the Pill Tower, as well as Shen Jizi, attacked. They were all experts on that level. But suddenly, the reincarnation mirror appeared in the air. Even if the Shen master was insufferably arrogant, he wouldn't dare to fight 1 against 4. He directly summoned the reincarnation mirror, blasting the 4 of them with a ray of light. Boom! The 4 of them took out their own divine weapons to block the reincarnation mirror's light. Heaven and earth exploded with mass spatial twisting. Long Chen and the others suddenly found themselves thousands of miles away. But even at that place, space was constantly twisting. Fortunately, there was a layer of light protecting them. That was a barrier the Shen master had made through the reincarnation mirror in order to protect them. We'll block the reincarnation mirror. Everyone else, go kill Long Chen. Kill those who block your path as well, shouted Ma Xingkong. The experts from the heaven-suppressing magic sect, ancient races, and Pill Tower all charged toward the distant Shintian Dao sect's disciples. Protect the disciples. Kill the incoming enemies. Lu Tsang shouted and flew out. A single hand unleashed a wave of light that killed several of the heaven-suppressing magic sect's kings. But he had only just started attacking when he was surrounded and blocked by 6 Hall Master-level experts. They began a fierce fight. Lu Tsang was originally just a Hall Master. Although he had used a Life Star bead to advance to the Life Star realm, his combat power was unable to fully match a true Life Star expert. Fighting 1 against 6 was his limit. The various Hall Masters also attacked. They all knew this wasn't the time to talk. This had to be settled through fighting, through putting their lives on the line. Fortunately, Lu Tsang managed to stall 6 of the enemy's Hall Master-level experts on his own. The other Dao sect's Hall Masters ended up in a 1 against 1 situation. The battlefield maintained a tentative balance. The Hall Master-level experts were equally matched. But their opponents had 4 times the number of kings. In just the first moment, several of the Dao sect's kings were killed. What should we do? Seeing this chaotic scene, the Martial Heaven Alliance's people didn't know what to do. They had never thought this group of people would start fighting here. There's no way around it, we have to go report it quickly. The leader also had no idea how to handle this. He couldn't deal with something on this level, so he could only go and get help from the higher-ups. Long Chen took a deep breath. After the healing disciple's full efforts at restoration, he had recovered to about 30%. Holding Blood Drinker, he charged out of the reincarnation mirror's protective zone. As soon as he did, he felt space constantly twisting around him, making him extremely uncomfortable. Disciples with weaker cultivation bases would be ground to dust within this twisted space. Without the reincarnation mirror's protection, over half of the disciples would die within just a few breaths. Kill! Long Chen summoned his divine ring. For stars revolved in his eyes, and green scales covered his body. Long Chen, meet your death! Dozens of kings immediately went to attack Long Chen. One of the heaven-suppressing magic sect's kings raised his staff. But before he could even start his chanting, an azure light flew past, killing him. That was Cloud's attack. Meng Qi stood on Cloud's back, and forming hand seals, spiritual strength exploded out of her. A golden phoenix flew out. That was her soul item, and it transformed into millions of flying swords that shot at the kings. Meng Qi's spiritual barrage affected quite a few kings. They only realized the danger once her soul item reached them. By then it was already too late. Her soul item pierced through their heads, exterminating their souls. Over a dozen kings were killed in one blow. Kill that girl! Cried someone as he shot at Meng Qi. But he had only just moved when sword light flashed. Another king was killed, cut in 2. The sword light had only just flashed when wind blades filled the air. They shot amongst the kings and then shockingly exploded. Miserable screams rang out as several people were killed. The others were almost blown to pulp. They're too strong. Stop holding back and activate your king items. King items could only be activated by those with a jade core. Activating them was one of a king's strongest moves, and it was also their last trump card. Activating a king item required an incredible amount of spiritual yuan. Even a king with their jade core could only activate a king item for one attack. Die. One of the kings activated his king item. His copper staff blazed with light, and he smashed it at Yuzifeng. Space crumbled around the staff. A king item's power contained immense pressure that made it impossible to dodge. Boom. Just at this moment, a huge club smashed into the staff, releasing a heaven-shaking explosion. Wild took the king item's attack head-on. Blood dripped out of his hand, but with his powerful physical body, he managed to block that terrifying attack. Instead, it was the attacking king that received a powerful backlash. Both his arms exploded. His own staff ended up smashing into his body, killing him. One of the heaven-suppressing magic sex kings had just blocked one of Gu Yang's attacks when a golden arrow pierced his defenses and killed him. Guoran was still within the light of the reincarnation mirror. He had taken out a crossbow and was using special armor-piercing arrows. Whenever he saw an opportunity, he would launch a sudden attack on the kings. As long as it was a good opportunity, the kings would be killed in one blow. Guoran mostly targeted the kings of the heaven-suppressing magic sect. Once their defenses were broken, they were just trash. Their weak physical bodies were as fragile as a porcelain bottle. Only rank 6 celestials were able to fight within the powerful pressure outside. Rank 5 celestials would find themselves unable to move, and rank 4 celestials would very likely instantly die. They could only watch. Long Chen fought with his saber valiantly. He killed 7 kings in a row, but his spiritual yuan was almost exhausted. Tang Wan'er and the others were also stuck in a bitter battle. There were too many enemies. More and more of the Xintian Dao sect's elders were dying. Suddenly, Long Chen saw 2 figures crash together. The 2 of them exploded at the same time, dying in mutual destruction. Elder Shah. One of them was precisely the taciturn, seemingly numb Elder Shah who had brought Long Chen and the others from the eastern wasteland. He had actually fallen here. Boss, quick, go support Sister Meng Qi. Long Chen was in the midst of fighting 3 kings when he heard Guoran. He suddenly saw that Meng Qi was entangled with 4 kings. Cloud was doing its best to strike back at them, and it was covered in blood. Danger surrounded them. Brat, do you know why we're not in a hurry to kill you? One of the heaven-suppressing magic sex kings that was fighting Long Chen smiled sinisterly. Long Chen's pupils shrank, and he suddenly thought of the problem. Their goal was to kill him. Once he was dead, everything would be resolved. But they didn't go all out to target him. That meant they didn't just want to kill him, but they wanted to use him as an excuse to kill all the Xintian Dao sex experts. Thanks for your reminder. To thank you, I will give you a painless death. A medicinal pill suddenly appeared in Long Chen's hand. He popped it into his mouth, and it instantly dissolved. A berserk energy exploded out of Long Chen's body. Suddenly, the roar of the dragon and tiger rang out of Long Chen's body. His pores were completely opened, and his body became covered in blood. The roar grew louder and louder as if an azure dragon and a white tiger were roaring above the 9 heavens. Long Chen slashed his saber, and a terrifying saber image blew through the kings he was fighting despite their defenses. In a flash, Long Chen appeared beside Meng Qi. He destroyed one of the king's runic defenses with a punch, and then another punch caused that king from the heaven-suppressing magic sect to explode. The other 3 were sent flying by his saber. Long Chen suddenly raised his head and roared. A terrifying aura crashed against the sky. The divine ring behind Long Chen now had a faint image of an azure dragon and white tiger within it. In that instant, Long Chen's exhausted spiritual yuan suddenly reached full capacity. What Long Chen had devoured was the Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion pill he had obtained in the immemorial path. This pill could instantly raise a person's power by several times. Even exhausted spiritual yuan could be instantly restored by forcibly drawing energy from heaven and earth. Furthermore, The most terrifying thing about the Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill was that it raised a person's strength based on their latent talent. The more talented the person who consumed it was, the greater the power that would explode. If Long Chen had consumed the Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill back then, it wouldn't have had such a huge effect like this. Now, even his skin had broken apart from the berserk energy exploding out of him. This power was something his physical body couldn't tolerate. It was like a dragon and a tiger were fiercely fighting within his body. His power was still crazily rising. At the same time, his immortal platforms were overloaded. Cracks had appeared on his body. His power had been raised to a level that even he couldn't bear. That showed just how terrifying his potential was. Currently, he was still unable to bear that power. Kill! A dragon and a tiger appeared in Long Chen's eyes. This was a sign that the Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill had reached its full effect. He shot toward one of the experts fighting Tangwan. With a single slash of his saber, that person instantly exploded. Long Chen's power had been forcibly raised to the point that even kings were killed in one blow. He crazily rushed around. No kings were able to stand up to his power. They didn't even have the chance to run. Kill Long Chen. Over 20 kings immediately abandoned their current opponents to charge at Long Chen. Previously, they had received orders not to be in a hurry to kill Long Chen and to instead focus on the rest of the Xintian Dao sect's people. Otherwise, once Long Chen was killed, the battle would be over and they wouldn't have an excuse or chance to kill the others. But now Long Chen was crazily killing their kings, and someone finally gave the order to kill him. Split the heavens 3. A huge saber image soared into the sky. It was now 10 times larger than it had been before. Boom. Over 30 kings were killed in one blow, shocking all the experts fighting. And you said you weren't a heaven sees. To be so vicious at such a young age, you need to be killed now. Suddenly, a cold cry rang out, and a hand that filled the heavens slammed toward Long Chen. In that instant, it felt like the world had frozen. A Hall Master-level expert had actually attacked Long Chen. Split the heavens 4. Long Chen's eyes were icy cold. A quarter of his immortal platforms had all their energy sucked dry. Blood poured from all of his pores, but his expression was still calm as he slashed his saber down. Time moved slowly. Long Chen's saber tore through the large hand coming toward him. That hand was cut in two as though it was as weak as tofu. Even after going through it, the saber's power hadn't weakened at all. It landed right on the Hall Master-level expert. Boom. What shocked everyone was that this expert from the heaven-suppressing magic sect had his defenses cleanly cut in two, and Long Chen's saber reached his body, instantly causing his body to explode. How could they not be shocked? Long Chen was actually so terrifying that he was able to kill a Hall Master-level expert. Long Chen vomited blood. It dyed his whole body red, and bones were revealed in some places. His current power was so great that his body was unable to bear it. The stronger the move he used, the greater the burden on his body. However, he didn't care. He circulated the primal chaos space's life energy, instantly healing all of his injuries. Brat, how dare you destroy my physical body? Suddenly, a translucent figure appeared in the air. Runes revolved around it, and it charged at Long Chen. It waved a staff in its hand. What? The Xintian Dao sect's disciples let out startled cries. What was that translucent figure? Be careful, that's his Yuan spirit. It's also extremely powerful, shouted Li Changfeng. He wanted to go help, but he was entangled with 3 experts and couldn't escape. So what? This time I'll destroy your Yuan spirit. Long Chen snorted and raised Blood Drinker, preparing to attack once again. But suddenly, a rainbow light flashed by, and a large mouth like a black hole swallowed the Yuan spirit. Cloud, you can't eat that. Long Chen was shocked. That was an existence above a king, and it couldn't just be randomly eaten. But it was already too late. Cloud had already swallowed the Yuan spirit into its stomach. Cloud suddenly began to shine, and a terrifying pressure erupted from its body. Long Chen and Meng Qi's hearts both clenched. They were afraid Cloud would explode. Boom. An explosive sound rang out, and runes raged through the air. A terrifying and berserk aura soared out. What? When the runes faded, a huge figure appeared. It was 1,500 meters long. Cloud was enveloped by terrifying runes. Its golden eyes seemed to blaze as if they could see through space. It was incredibly majestic, like a true divine steed. It advanced. Long Chen's heart shook. Previously, from devouring so many 9th rank sea demons, Cloud had already reached the peak of the 8th rank. He hadn't expected it would directly advance to the 9th rank after devouring the heaven-suppressing magic sex expert's Yuan spirit. Now that it had advanced to the 9th rank, it was incredibly terrifying. "Cloud, kill the kings as quickly as possible," shouted Long Chen. He wasn't worried about Cloud fighting kings now that it had advanced to the 9th rank. It just so happened that there were 2 kings who were attacking Cloud with their king items. Cloud spread its huge wings, slamming them toward those 2. Their 2 king items were sent flying, while the king items' masters were turned into bloody mist by terrifying astral winds. Not good. The Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill's effect is almost up. Long Chen suddenly found that the Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill's energy had reached its limit. Its effect was starting to fall. This kind of pill activated rapidly, but its effect passed quickly as well. Furthermore, once its medicinal effects disappeared, he would be left in an extremely weak state. Split the heavens 4. Long Chen rose into the air and attacked one of the experts fighting Lute Song. That Hall Master level expert was appalled and hastily blocked it with his weapon. Space exploded, and he was blown back, vomiting blood. Just at that moment, the prepared Lute Song slashed out his sword, killing him. Not even his Yuan spirit escaped. This really is addicting. That's already the 2nd. Although Long Chen's body almost exploded because of this immense power, he was filled with excitement. He wanted to draw out more life energy from the primal chaos space to heal, but he saw the iron spruce oaks had already withered. He suddenly thought of the divine life elixir. Drinking a mouthful of it, his injuries completely recovered. At this time, the dragon and tiger images in his eyes began to fade. One more. Long Chen raised his saber. Now that there wasn't much time left, Long Chen clenched his teeth and gathered all his remaining energy. Split the heavens 4. This time, Long Chen's attack covered over half the battlefield. His saber image fell, enveloping 7 experts on the level of Hall Masters. Boom. 4 of them were from the ancient races, and they shot back, vomiting blood. The other 3 were not so fortunate, because they were from the heaven-suppressing magic sect. Furthermore, the Shen-Tian Dao sect's experts fighting them wouldn't give them any chance to get away. As a result, the 3 of them were killed, with only their Yuan spirits fleeing. But those Yuan spirits were immediately devoured by a large mouth. Cloud seemed to greatly enjoy the taste of Yuan spirits. With its innate talent, killing Yuan spirits seemed to be exceptionally simple. Once Yuan spirits were in its stomach, they would be no more than food. Heavens, boss is mighty. Guoran and the others couldn't believe their eyes. Long Chen's one attack had resulted in 3 Hall Master level experts dying and the other 4 being injured. But after this attack, Long Chen became covered in cracks. He almost exploded. He hastily gulped down mouthful after mouthful of the divine life elixir. Die. Just as Long Chen was recovering, an ancient race expert attacked Long Chen from behind. He was a Hall Master level expert. At this time, Long Chen's eyes were dim, and the dragon and tiger images had faded. The Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill's effect had come to an end, and a wave of weakness washed over him. He was powerless to dodge. No. Dragon Blood Laser Sword. Guoran suddenly shouted, and all the warriors of the Dragon Blood Legion suddenly began to shine. More accurately, their armor was shining. There was a thumb-sized crystal at the center of their chests. Those crystals began to shine, and over 13,000 rays of light shot out, condensing into a huge sword of light in the air. Before anyone could react, this sword shot out at an unbelievable speed. The ancient race expert attacking Long Chen exploded on contact. Nice job, everyone. praised Guoran. Back when Long Chen had asked Guoran how the armor forging had been going, Guoran had said he had gone back to tweak things. One of the reasons was because of this collective move, the Dragon Blood Laser Sword. This move was something he had spent unimaginable time and effort on. After much research, he had developed a way to gather all the energy of the Dragon Blood Legion's warriors and gather it into one ultimate attack. This was their first time using it. Previously, they had done a few small experiments, but they hadn't used it at its full power. That was because using this move would instantly draw out all their energy. Unless they had no choice, they wouldn't use this move. But now that they had, it revealed itself to be a stunning move capable of shocking the heavens and making gods and ghosts weep. A Hall Master-level expert had been killed in one blow. Furthermore, the ancient races had weaker spiritual strength, making it so his Yuan spirit was destroyed as well. This move shocked everyone, filling the Dragon Blood Legion's warriors with pride. Their power also couldn't be disregarded. Long Chen quickly run. Suddenly, Long Chen received a message from the Xian Master. He sensed many powerful auras rushing in this direction. Long Chen understood the Xian Master's intention. Right now, the Xian Tiandao sect had already taken the advantage on the battlefield. As long as he left, everyone would be safe. Cloud, we're leaving. Long Chen jumped onto Cloud's back. Runes appeared on its wings, and it transformed into a 7-colored ray of light that instantly disappeared over the horizon. Seeing Long Chen leave, the Xian Master suddenly pressed a finger on his forehead. Blood dripped off his finger as he drew a complicated image in the sky. His face paled slightly as he did. Clearly, whatever he was doing came at a price for him. Immortal Qi appeared within the diagram, and it was sucked away by the reincarnation mirror. Its light exploded, and the ancient race expert, Ma Xingkong, the Pill Tower expert, and Xian Jizi were blown back by its power. The reincarnation mirror's light enveloped all the members of the Xian Tiandao sect, and they suddenly disappeared. Seeing Xian Jizi's shoulder was pitch black like charcoal, everyone sucked in a cold gasp of air. Do you see? This is the backlash from just trying to read Long Chen's fate once. Half my body exploded, and the parts that regrew have been cursed, making them like this, said Xian Jizi hatefully. He had lived for many years, but he had never encountered such a situation. In truth, the regrown parts of his body would feel like needles were stabbing them every few hours, tormenting him. When Xian Jizi thought about this, he was infuriated. Back then, he hadn't really been calculating Long Chen's future, he had just been calculating his position. But just that had almost cost him his life. If he had tried calculating his future, there probably wouldn't be the slightest speck of his bones left. That made Xian Jizi extremely uneasy and terrified. Xian Jizi was an extremely vile person. While he roamed around the world, whenever he noticed geniuses being born, he would secretly plant a Tao seed within them as a baby. This slave heart Tao seed was extremely evil. It extracted a celestial's heavenly Tao energy and gave it to him. He was like a leech, constantly using this secret art to absorb energy from others for his own cultivation. In the beginning, he had been very careful. He only placed the slave heart Tao seed in a few ordinary celestials. But as his status rose, his confidence inflated. Using his status, he began targeting the more talented babies. The greater the talent of the baby, the more likely they were to be part of a large sect or ancient family. He could use his status to win their trust. It was very convenient. Furthermore, even after 1,000 years, no one had noticed any clues about his slave heart Tao seeds. That made him more and more brazen, and he gradually became completely unbridled. Since he often went around to the large sects to tell fortunes for people, he was able to encounter many talented babies. Nowadays, he was too lazy to bother keeping track of the ordinary babies he placed these slave heart Tao seeds on. It could be said that Hua Xiu was actually an exception. Someone had revealed to him that the Hua family had a Tao seeking King Jade. That wasn't something useful to others, but for Xian Jizi who peered into the heavens, it was a good supplementary tool. When he had rushed over the Hua family, he had seen Hua Xiu who had been born not long ago. Seeing that her talent was extremely good, he had directly revealed his status. While reading Hua Shiyu's fortune, he had stealthily placed the slave heart Dao seed. Then he had used Hua Shiyu to extort the Hua family for their Dao seeking King Jade. But the Hua family had refused, infuriating Xianjizi. He said Hua Shiyu would have 3 tribulations in her life, and her lifespan would not surpass 23. The 3 tribulations were something Xianjizi had read in her fortune, while her limited lifespan was what he himself had decided. Those who had his slave heart Dao seed within them had their life and death within his hands. In order to make people revere him more, he would occasionally make a divine calculation that someone was imminently about to die. But this time, he had run into Long Chen. Xianjizi was full of regret over this matter. Just why had he been so stupid as to threaten Long Chen at that time? If he had simply allowed Long Chen to remove the slave heart Dao seed, then things would have been fine. The Hua family wouldn't dare to try and blame him for it. Most importantly, there was no proof. No one would have been able to do anything. But Long Chen was different. After his failure of calculating Long Chen's position had cost him half his life, an intense feeling of unease had filled his heart. He felt like things were about to turn sour for him. If Long Chen transmitted this information about, he would fall from grace. That was why he said that Long Chen was a heaven Caesar. Long Chen's growth was truly bizarre and similar to a legendary heaven Caesar. Adding in how domineering he was and his vicious methods, Xianjizi felt like accusing him of being a heaven Caesar was the best option. Just like Taoist Xianjizi said, Long Chen is a heaven Caesar. We should immediately initiate the Righteous Path's arrest warrant and kill him at all costs, said Ma Xinkong. No, he had some kind of powerful treasure that shields him from the mysteries of fate. Due to my close friendship with Brother Danting, I invited him over from the Pill Tower, you understand. Xianjizi looked at them. His meaning was clear. Long Chen definitely had to die, but he didn't want more people to know of this. Xianjizi had already invited the elder from the Pill Tower to be the judge of this matter. In other words, whatever benefits could be gained from Long Chen's body would go to him. They couldn't even think about fighting over them. Ma Xinkong and the ancient race expert immediately nodded with comprehension. It was no wonder the Pill Tower would interfere in this matter. Dan Teng smiled toward the two of them. Although my Pill Tower will carry out this matter, we are still grateful for your assistance. After all, you two already have a well-known relationship to Long Chen and the Shintian Dao sect. Furthermore, Dan Teng will swear on the Dan family that whatever benefits I gain, I will not forget the two of you. Who cares about benefits? As long as you, Dan Teng, say the word, my heaven-suppressing magic sect would not frown to walk into wind or fire. Ma Xinkong patted his chest sincerely. Ma Xinkong could easily tell that Xianjizi had tied his fate to Dan Teng. In this world, probably only the Shintian Dao sect would be stupid enough to go against the Pill Tower. Others weren't so stupid. Having a good relationship with the Pill Tower would definitely maximize the benefits for the sect. Furthermore, the heaven-suppressing magic sect already had a good relationship with the Pill Tower, so expressing his sincerity toward this matter was a must. I always support this. I hope that Brother Dan Ting might be able to help us with medicinal pills in the future, said the ancient race expert. Don't worry, once this matter is over, I definitely won't disappoint you. Dan Teng was very forthright. In truth, he was a very crafty person, and although his words sounded grand, he didn't give an exact promise on anything. The four of them quickly made an agreement. As long as they put in effort into testifying that Long Chen was a heaven Caesar, it would quickly gain momentum. If anyone asked for proof, they could be vague. They wouldn't say there was proof and they wouldn't say there wasn't, but they would be sure once Long Chen was killed. If Long Chen was here, he would definitely point at their noses and curse, "Are you stupid?" Xianjizi already said that he received a backlash when he tried calculating my fate. Now he's saying that I have a precious treasure shielding me from the readings of fate? If I was screened off, how did he learn anything? And if he didn't read my fate, what about the backlash? But it had to be said that Xianjizi truly had some ability to be able to dupe Dan Teng. And Dan Teng was someone who possessed enough power to make Ma Xinkong and the ancient race expert cooperate. What are we supposed to do when the Martial Heaven Alliance investigates? Asked Ma Xingkong worriedly. There's no need to fear. The Martial Heaven Alliance might be powerful, always strict and impartial, but there are many things that they require proof for. It's very inconvenient for them. We'll just stall them, saying that we suspect Long Chen is a Heaven Caesar, but as for the proof, we'll give it to them later. Since I come from Heavenly Fate Island, they won't want to offend me. Although I'm 100% certain Long Chen is a Heaven Caesar, without taking off the treasure shielding him from the readings of fate, I cannot prove anything. My guess is that the Martial Heaven Alliance still won't be able to do anything to us even if they want to stand up for the Shen Dao sect. After all, there are too many oddities with Long Chen's growth that no one can explain. In the end, each side will be standing on the side of reason. Although the Shen Dao sect took some losses, compared to you three, those losses are insignificant. All we have to do is maintain our story that we came here to capture Long Chen in order to protect the innocents. If the Shen Dao sect had simply handed him over, none of this would have happened. But instead, they viciously attacked us with their blades. That was clearly wrong, as we had the neutral Pill Tower present who only wanted peace. The Shen Dao sect clearly attacked because they felt guilty. In this way, the Shen Dao sect will be the one with the greater responsibility for this matter. Let's see if they dare to try anything against us now, sneered Shen Jizi. Everyone's eyes brightened. With the way Shen Jizi had put it, their actions had instantly landed on the side of reason. As long as they maintained that they had invited Long Chen over to investigate him, but had instead met a fierce slaughter that felt like the Shen Dao sect had wanted to kill them to keep them quiet, they were most certainly on the right side. After all, 4 of their powers combined were far stronger than the Shen Dao sect, and so their word counted for more. Fuck, our losses this time are huge. That brute Long Chen and his subordinates are so vicious. Who would believe that he isn't a Heaven Caesar? Ma Xingkong was filled with hatred as he looked at the few remaining experts by his side. The ancient race expert was also filled with hatred. He didn't know how he was supposed to explain this matter once he got back. Their losses were immense. Fortunately, through this matter, he had ended up creating a deeper relationship with the Pill Tower. Hopefully that would make up for the losses. A blazing burst of light came from the Shen Dao sect's Shen Tower. It connected with a ray of light in the air and a large group of people in the plaza. The Shen Master had linked the reincarnation mirror with the Shen Tower to transport everyone here. Shen Master, my boss, shouted Guoran. Long Chen will be fine. With the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow's speed, and considering they don't have any carrier divine items, it's impossible for them to catch up, comforted the Shen Master. In the beginning, the Shen Master also hadn't been able to tell it was a cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow, but he had realized it after it had devoured a whole master-level expert's Yuan spirit. To have such terrifying power at just the 8th rank, it could only be a legendary cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. Furthermore, the powerful pressure it had emitted after advancing to the 9th rank had allowed many of the powerful experts to realize its identity. That made the Shen Master bitterly smile. Long Chen truly hid his trump cards well, and they were each more terrifying than the last. He was truly worthy of being a Heaven Defier. All inner sect disciples should go back and rest. Starting today, the Shen Dao sect is sealing its borders. No disciples are to go out, ordered the Shen Master. The Shen Dao sect had truly stuck itself out this time for Long Chen, and it would most likely cause an immense commotion. They had to be careful now. Shen Master, what should we do? Asked Lutsong. A bright light appeared in the Shen Master's eyes, and he smiled slightly. That Shen Jizi is afraid the news that he placed a slave heart Dao seed on Hua Xiu will become public. That's why he stubbornly insists Long Chen is a Heaven Caesar, in order to kill the only one who can testify. The Shen Master had asked Hua Xiu about this on the way back, and so he was clear on the causes of this matter. So it's Heavenly Fate Island. We can't provoke them. Lu Tsong's expression changed. There is nothing in this world that can't be provoked. It just depends on how you do it. My guess is they've already started crying thief and went to the Martial Heaven Alliance. But that's fine, They merely have the brains of a 3-year-old child. They're not worth being afraid of, said the Xian master disdainfully. However, what happened today caused the Xian master to feel a bit of helplessness. His plans had all gone smoothly for many years now, with everything in his control. But when it came to Long Chen, he had miscalculated. He had never expected 4 great powers to attack together today. The Xian master looked into the distance. Perhaps he now finally understood why Long Chen didn't like scheming. Cloud rapidly flew through the air. Long Chen was feeling weaker and weaker, as though his body was about to break down. His head was about to explode. This wasn't due to an injury, but the side effect of the Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill. It had given him immense power, but in exchange for that power, he had to pay back a debt. Long Chen was in extreme pain. The Divine Life Elixir was unable to alleviate it, as this was no ordinary injury. This could be considered a Dao injury. After forcibly extracting energy from heaven and earth, he had to pay it back, and that process was excruciating enough to make someone wish they were dead. When he had used the Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill, he hadn't had any energy left in his body. That worsened his current condition. The heavenly Daos were extracting back their energy from Long Chen, but he didn't have the energy to be extracted. So now it felt like some strange energy was causing all the cells in his body to wither as it extracted their energy. Damn heavens, this energy was something I obtained through my own abilities, so why should I have to return it? Long Chen roared furiously inside. But he had no way to resist the extracting of the heavenly Daos. Pain racked his body, and he felt like millions of needles were piercing through every inch of his skin. The pain was indescribable. This was different from his heavenly tribulations. This was something he couldn't do anything about. He could only clench his teeth and endure. Furthermore, he couldn't even faint even if he wanted to. With Cloud's speed, they ended up somewhere Long Chen didn't even know about after rushing for 8 hours. He finally had Cloud find a place to descend. Long Chen saw that they had appeared on top of a deep valley. He found a random cave and had Cloud guard the outside. Enduring the pain, he began refining pills. But due to the pain, he couldn't focus. He failed 3 times before finally succeeded with 1 pill, and it was just a 7-ring high-grade pill. He immediately swallowed it, and the medicinal energy quickly spread, cutting off his sense of pain. He finally felt a bit better. That price really was crazy. Fortunately, I escaped, or wouldn't I be crushed like a dog now? Long Chen still felt some lingering fear. The Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pill's power had been even greater than he had expected. This was the result of it being nourished for countless years. Its power had increased and so had its side effects, but Long Chen could only endure. This medicinal pill only allowed him to block out a portion of the pain. With his pill sovereign memories, Long Chen knew that this kind of phenomenon was very normal. He couldn't forcibly use medicinal energy to block the heavenly Daos from extracting energy from him, or it would just worsen his Dao injury. Cloud, can you find the way back? Long Chen took out a jade tablet. It indicated his current position, and it also indicated another position, which was the Xiantian Dao sect. This jade tablet was a map containing millions and millions of miles of terrain. However, right now, it was merely able to show an arrow pointing to where the Xiantian Dao sect lay. The two of them were so far apart it was unable to accurately say where the Xiantian Dao sect was exactly. Cloud let out a bird cry, telling Long Chen that it could use its spiritual connection with Meng Qi to find where she was. It would be easy to get back. Good, then you go back. Tell Meng Qi and the others that I'm safe and fine, but for now, it's not convenient for me to go back, said Long Chen. Cloud let out a quiet bird cry. Long Chen smiled slightly. Don't worry, I'll just recuperate here for a few days, and once I'm recovered, I'm thinking of taking a trip to the heaven-splitting battle sect. If I still didn't go, it would be improper of me. Only then did Cloud spread its wings, vanishing from Long Chen's sight. Once Cloud was gone, in order to be extra careful, Long Chen flew on his own for over 2 hours before jumping into a river. Following its flow and concealing his aura, he arrived at the bottom of a waterfall. Creating a cave in the back of the waterfall, he lived there for 7 days. Long Chen spent those 7 days lying on the ground without the slightest energy. He barely had the energy to breathe. He didn't struggle at all. He simply let the heavenly Daos extract energy from him continuously during this time. Finally, after the 7th day, that feeling disappeared. At this moment, an explosive sound came from his body. Each of his cells became like hungry wolves, crazily devouring heaven and earth's energy. Long Chen also took out Yuan spirit stones and absorbed their energy. Unfortunately, he didn't have that many Yuan spirit stones left. He only had a couple 100,000. Because he was afraid he wouldn't be able to stop himself from using them all, he had distributed the rest amongst the others. Regretfully, the energy within a couple 100,000 Yuan spirit stones was only enough for him to half recover. Sensing that he had recovered to 50%, Long Chen finally sighed with relief. The feeling of being weak wasn't a good one. Now, even if he did run into enemies, he would have some confidence. Long Chen didn't immediately go out after this. He continued recovering, because it wasn't just him who needed to recover. Lei Long and Hua Long also needed time, because they had used up all their energy in the last battle. Meng Qi and the others had waited anxiously for 3 days before Cloud finally returned. Hearing that Long Chen was fine raised the spirits of the Dragonblood Legion. When the Shen Master heard that Long Chen was temporarily not coming back, he couldn't help but shake his head. He understood Long Chen's intentions. He was worried about causing trouble for the Shen Dao sect, and he didn't want them to be everyone's target. That made the Shen Master feel vexed. As the master of his sect, he wasn't even able to protect his disciple. Last time, he had been besieged by 4 powerful experts, and it had been Long Chen who had consecutively killed the Hall Master-level experts, reversing the tides. If it hadn't been for that, Lu Tsong wouldn't have been able to come help him, and there would have been no chance for them to get away. Through this battle, the Shen Master realized Long Chen had too many variables about him. He was fundamentally not someone he could control. However, knowing that Long Chen was fine allowed him to relax. Considering his methods and intelligence, he shouldn't end up at a disadvantage in any ordinary circumstances. In fact, sometimes it might even be safer for Long Chen to be on his own, because when others provoked him, he could just laugh it off, but when others insulted the people by his side, he would immediately explode. Shen Master, the Martial Heaven Alliance had issued a summons. I'll make a trip there tomorrow. Lu Tsong held a golden card in his hand. I'll go instead. You're lacking the sharpness to face those shameless fellows. The Shen Master shook his head. Lu Tsong was a calm and careful man. He was very meticulous with how he handled things, but he was lacking the domineering and aggressive aspect necessary to handle this. But if you personally go, wouldn't it lower the Shen Dao sect's prestige? Lu Tsong wasn't so sure this was the best idea. That's fine. Don't we have our own trump cards? First, we'll slap their face, then we'll show them our cards. The Shen Master smiled faintly. Not long after the Shen Master left the Shen Dao sect, a piece of shocking news spread. The defensive region of the Shen Dao sect in the Eastern Sea had been the grounds of a righteous and corrupt path battle. The Shen Dao sect had captured a large number of the corrupt path's experts and had even captured one of their sect masters. This news shook the entire righteous path. It had to be known that such a figure from the corrupt path had not been slain in thousands of years. Furthermore, he had been captured alive this time. The Shen Dao sect shocked countless righteous sections. Other than this, there was an even more shocking piece of news. According to the rumors, the Shen Dao sect was home to a monster suspected to be a heaven Caesar. He was not a celestial, but his combat power was limitless, and he fought across realms as easy as harvesting melons. When the ancient races, the heaven-suppressing magic sect, the Pill Tower, and the heavenly fate pavilion in the Grand Han ancient nation had tried to capture him, he had fiercely struck back, continuously killing kings. Then with a pill that stimulated his potential, he had inflicted serious damage on multiple soul transformation experts, and in the end, several of them had died. This news astonished countless sections. With the Martial Heaven Alliance as a mediator, the Shen Master met with the leaders of the 4 great powers. Xian Jizi firmly testified that Long Chen was a heaven Caesar. He brought up all kinds of suspicious points, his saliva flying from his incessant torrent. The ancient races, heaven-suppressing magic sect, and the Pill Tower all backed his testimony. The Xian master had directly sworn using his name as the master of the Xian Tiandao sect that if Long Chen was actually a heaven Caesar, he would immediately disband the Xian Tiandao sect. With such a serious guarantee, the opponents had no idea what to say. The Xian master was telling them very directly not to try talking about theory or suspicions. He guaranteed that Long Chen was not a heaven Caesar, and if he was wrong, his sect would immediately vanish like smoke in the wind. That even stunned the Martial Heaven Alliance's people. As the leader of the Xian Tiandao sect, Li Tianxian couldn't possibly say such a thing carelessly. Furthermore, the Xian Tiandao sect's reputation was very good in the Martial Heaven Alliance. Quite a few experts in the alliance respected the Xian Tiandao sect greatly. Seeing that Li Tianxian dared to make such a promise immediately caused the people who stood by the Xian Tiandao sect's side to warn the ancient races and heaven-suppressing magic sect not to wrongly accuse an innocent person. Because Li Tianxian had taken out the Xian Tiandao sect's future as his stakes, this matter ended up becoming extremely serious. If the ancient races, the heaven-suppressing magic sect, and the Pill Tower wanted to continue saying that Long Chen was a heaven Caesar, they would also have to put up equal stakes. In other words, Li Tianxian was gambling with them, with the Martial Heaven Alliance being the one to enforce it. If Long Chen was a heaven Caesar, then the Xian Tiandao sect would immediately vanish from this world. But if Long Chen was not a heaven Caesar, then the ancient races, heaven-suppressing magic sect, and Pill Tower could not brush it off with just a sorry. To put it frankly, this was forcing them to put their money where their mouths were. If they were so confident Long Chen was a heaven Caesar, then come and gamble. As a result, the ancient races, heaven-suppressing magic sect, and Pill Tower didn't dare to say anything. This problem had become too big, especially to the expert representing the ancient races. He was nothing more than a member from one race amongst the ancient races, and he was not even the leader of that race. If he went along with this and swore Long Chen was a heaven Caesar, then the Ancient Race Alliance would lose all its prestige if he was wrong. He would also be kicked out from the Ancient Race Alliance. In front of such a terrifying gamble, his confidence wavered. Let alone him, even Xian Jizi was dumbfounded. He didn't dare to gamble like this either. If in the end, Long Chen was proven not to be a heaven Caesar, then their three powers would be disbanded, and they would probably chase him to the ends of the earth as vengeance. Perhaps Xian Jizi wasn't afraid of the others, but the Pill Tower could still kill him. Even Heavenly Fate Island wouldn't protect him from Pill Valley. With a single sentence, the Xian master struck a brilliant slap across all four faces. He exchanged the corrupt experts he had captured with the Martial Heaven Alliance for an ocean's worth of resources and returned. As for the Martial Heaven Alliance, its decree was that since the four great powers didn't dare to gamble and say that they were sure, then all their people that had died had perished for nothing, and they also had to pay the Xian Tiandao sect for their losses. In the future, they were not to find trouble with Long Chen, or the Martial Heaven Alliance would stop them. The four of them could only leave, looking like they had just swallowed a basin of dog's hit. This result was completely out of their expectations. A few days after this event took place, Long Chen finally exited his seclusion. Having fully recovered, he activated his jade tablet to check where exactly he was. He couldn't help being surprised. I ended up here? Long Chen realized that his jade tablet said that he was currently within the Grand Xia ancient nation. Within the Central Plains, there were countless sects and tens of thousands of ideologies of the Tao. But there were four special powers, the four ancient nations. The Grand Xia ancient nation, the Grand Han ancient nation, the Grand Zhou ancient nation, and the Grand Chu ancient nation. These four nations had inheritances that could be traced all the way back to the immortal era. The four grand ancient nations were terrifying existences, with their own profound foundations and powerful divine items protecting their karmic luck. Most importantly, the four ancient nations controlled vast swathes of land. Their population was immense, and they also had plentiful natural resources. No single sect could compare to them. So even if the Central Plains was dominated by sects, the four ancient nations were still titans. They were different from sects, and they still retained an imperial regime. Each ancient nation possessed a terrifying foundation that made it so even an enormous existence like the Xiantiandao sect wouldn't want to provoke them. The Grand Xia ancient nation was located in the eastern part of the Central Plains. Their territory was as large as over 10 prefectures in the eastern wasteland. As for where Long Chen was, he was just on the edges. This actually delighted him, because Zheng Wenlong had told him that the original devil race's stronghold was located within the Grand Xia ancient nation's imperial capital. I wonder whether Yu Shaoqian is there? I better go take a look. Long Chen started rushing deeper into the Grand Xia. But after crossing two huge mountains, he came to a shocked stop. In front of him was an unending mountain range, and there were multiple layers of light around it. It clearly indicated a formation. But that was simply insane. Was the Grand Xia's entire border covered by a formation? Just how much did it cost to maintain such a thing every day? Newcomers who want to enter the Grand Xia's realm, come register with your identity badge. Within the mountain range was a large city gate, and there was an expert shouting on top of it. He had clearly seen the distant, dumbfounded Long Chen. Even a door watcher is a sea expansion expert? This Grand Xia's foundation has to be insane. Long Chen was filled with shock. Please show me your identity badge. Long Chen arrived in front of the gate. The gate defender saw that Long Chen was a foundation forging expert and immediately became a bit more polite. Long Chen handed over his Xiantiandao Sex badge. That person checked, waving it over a stone tablet. Words immediately appeared on the stone tablet. Xiantiandao Sect Core Disciple, Long Chen. Long Chen had never known that this badge had such a use. It could actually be used to enter the ancient nations. No wonder you have reached the foundation forging realm at such a young age. So you're a core disciple of the Xiantiandao sect. Forgive me for my rudeness. Envy immediately appeared in this person's eyes, and his cautious expression relaxed. You're too courteous. I was just lucky to get the status, said Long Chen. Brother Long, is your trip to my Grand Xia for pleasure or business? Asked the guard upon seeing Long Chen was easy to talk to. After all, Long Chen was a foundation forging expert and a core disciple of the Xiantiandao sect. To a border guard like him, just talking to Long Chen for a bit would be enough for him to brag about to his fellows. The sect's cultivation techniques are too dull, and my hall master said my Dao heart isn't steady enough. He ordered me to go wander around to stabilize my Dao heart. I heard that the Grand Xia's scenery is beautiful with countless famous mountains and great rivers, heavenly treasures and magnificence, people of great honor and heroism. In terms of inheritance, you're the top of the four ancient nations. That's why I came to admire your learning and culture, said Long Chen politely. Brother Long is truly worthy of being a core disciple of a famous sect. Each of your words is like a gem. And you're right to come to my Grand Xia. Its culture is definitely the most profound out of the four ancient nations. There are countless historical sites where you can appreciate the culture. It's not like a certain nation that learned our inheritance and then shamelessly said that it came from their own nation. Truly shameless to the peak. A touch of disdain appeared on the guard's face. Brother, could it be you're talking about the Grand Han ancient nation? Probed Long Chen with surprise. You also know of their shamelessness? Now it was the guard's turn to be surprised. Hee, I've heard a bit about it, chortled Long Chen. He hadn't just heard about it. He had personally experienced an old bastard from the Grand Han ancient nation threatening to kill his entire family when he had been about to kill Han Zhenyu. Brother, do you have the time to have a drink with this little brother? If it's not too much trouble, could you tell me about what happened with the Grand Han? I'm very curious how they could be so shameless, said Long Chen. Hee, for Brother Long, it's no trouble at all. It just so happens my shift is about over. I'll find someone to replace me. Just wait a moment, I'll treat you to some wine. The guard sensed Long Chen's hostility toward the Grand Han and was delighted, immediately treating him as a friend. He ran to tell his subordinates to send another expert. That expert took over for him, while he and Long Chen entered the city. There was a tavern not far from them. This was just a small city. It might even be more accurate to describe it as a town. It was only 10 miles wide, but it wasn't like an ordinary border town. Although it was small, it wasn't desolate. In fact, it was the opposite. It possessed the feeling of home, as if anyone who came would feel like it was their hometown, allowing them to feel at peace. No signs of battle or struggle could be seen so far. There weren't even any scars or vestiges of such a thing, meaning this little city had never even been attacked. It was simple, yet grand and elegant. Long Chen learned that the guard's name was Chi Hao, and he was one of the guard captains of this region. "Brother Long, how is this wine?" Chi Hao gave Long Chen a bowl of wine. Looking at it, Long Chen said, "The fragrance is rich and mellow. It is delicate, yet it lingers in the air for a long time, allowing a person to reflect over it." The craftsmanship that went into this wine is extremely complicated. From picking out the ingredients, to drying, fermenting, brewing, purifying, and aging it. Each step was done meticulously. Just this one bowl of wine is enough for me to feel the depths of the Grand Xia's culture. It really is amazing. Long Chen was not faking his praise. As an alchemist, as soon as he took a taste, he could not only tell its composition, but he could also infer the craftsmanship that went into it. His previous praise for the Grand Xia had been pure nonsense. He didn't know anything about it, so how could he admire it? He had just been going through the motions. But after tasting this wine, he was deeply moved. The world was truly huge, and all professions had their own inheritances. For the wine that trickled down to a rural town like this to be so refined was almost inconceivable to him. The craftsmanship that had gone into it was not at all inferior to refining pills. Haha, Brother Long is truly a cultured person, worthy of being a core disciple of the Xiantian Dao sect. Chi Hao gave Long Chen a thumbs up. "Brother Chi Hao, I have something I'm curious about," probed Long Chen. "Go ahead." The reason this wine is so good isn't just because of the craftsmanship or ingredients. The majority of the reason is because of the winemaker. The winemaker had a completely devout heart when making it. When I drank it, I could feel a special kind of energy spreading through my body. "I don't understand this," said Long Chen. Chi Hao's jaw dropped, and he looked at Long Chen with shock for a long time before being able to speak again. "Brother Long, you really are a monster. You were able to sense that?" Long Chen was also startled. "Are you saying it's a kind of inheritance?" "Yes, this wine is something I obtained for my services the last time I went to the imperial capital. Due to my contributions, I was awarded 2 jugs. At that time, I drank 1 jug with my brothers, while I was never willing to drink the second. It's only because I sensed an immediate familiarity with you that I brought it out. Let me tell you, this wine is something made by the disciples of my Grand Xia's wine god palace. It's never sold on the market no matter how much money you have. It's only given to the Grand Xia's people and a few precious guests so they can taste it." When he spoke of the wine god palace, a reverent expression appeared on Chi Hao's face. "Are you saying there is an inheritance of the wine god within the Grand Han? The wine god truly exists?" asked Long Chen. But as soon as he said that, he realized he had misspoken and continued, "I'm not trying to question you, but I find it hard to imagine the existence of immortals and gods. I'm not trying to be rude to your God. God's related to faith, and sometimes one bad word would cause a life and death battle between believers. For devout believers, as soon as someone questioned their God, they would consider it the greatest insult. Don't worry, I'm not a member of the wine god palace. In truth, I also don't know if the wine god exists. But if you go to the imperial capital, you absolutely cannot say such a thing in front of the wine god palace's people. If you question their faith, they'll immediately turn hostile. Although the wine god palace's disciples don't like fighting, arguing and fighting against them until you're red in the face is meaningless. Furthermore, if you offend the wine god palace, you won't be able to taste their fine wine. Brother Long, my position is extremely low, so this wine was made by disciples in training. They don't even have a title, so this is naturally the lowest grade wine. I heard that the inner disciples and the core disciples can make wine that will bring a person boundless benefits. The wine god palace's disciples are cultured and refined. They don't usually incur hatred. You'll be fine as long as you don't take the initiative to provoke them. Also, with your status, you might be able to come into contact with the imperial princes and princesses in the capital. At that time, there'll be plenty of fine wine for you to drink. Speaking of which, don't forget me at that time. I wouldn't mind if you gave me a couple jars of good wine to enjoy. Towards the end, Chi Hao's eyes began to shine and he was almost drooling, making Long Chen smile. Long Chen continued to drink 2 bowls of wine with Chi Hao. He carefully sensed the profundities within it. He found that the meticulous skill that went into making it was definitely comparable to a magical art. Although this wine actually had many blemishes because it was made by a novice, its taste was still flawless to an untrained tongue. Sensing the profound arts that went into it, Long Chen was filled with praise. He suddenly had a thought. Can the wine god palace refine medicinal wine? You absolutely cannot mention medicinal wine in front of the wine god palace's disciples. It's a very sensitive subject, warned Chi Hao solemnly. Why is that? Long Chen was puzzled. This wine was extremely powerful. Although it was just ordinary wine, he sensed a special energy within it. If it was refined into medicinal wine, it would allow the medicinal energy to instantly spread throughout the whole body. It would be over 10 times more effective than pure medicinal elixirs. You must not know. There used to be medicinal wine produced through a combined effort of the Grand Xia's Wine God Palace and Pill Valley. But later, they suddenly stopped producing it. The Wine God Palace stopped sending Pill Valley their wine, while Pill Valley also stopped giving the Wine God Palace medicinal pills. Both sides immediately turned hostile to each other. Now the Wine God Palace has stopped producing medicinal wine, while Pill Valley continued to try without them, but the medicinal wine they can produce without the Wine God Palace isn't even fit to be called medicinal wine. There's no way to compare it with the original medicinal wine, said Chi Hao. Long Chen hadn't expected there to be such a backstory. It was unexpected that this Wine God Palace would be so obstinate as to even fight against Pill Valley. It had to be known that Chi Hao hadn't said it was a pill tower, it was Pill Valley. What kind of fight was it? Do you know, Brother Chi Hao? Probed Long Chen. In truth, it was nothing. It was just because of the profits. Chi Hao shook his head with a bitter smile. Profits? They didn't like the split in money? Chi Hao shook his head once more. No. You don't comprehend the Wine God Palace. Although the Wine God Palace resides within the Grand Xia, they are not actually controlled by the Grand Xia. They do not belong to any power and are a group of devout, prideful people. They might gift their fine wine to others, but they definitely won't sell it. You can't talk about selling their wine, or they'll treat it as a blasphemy toward the wine god. But when Pill Valley cooperated with them to create the medicinal wine, Pill Valley's people began to secretly spy on the way the Wine God Palace's disciples made their wine. The Wine God Palace's disciples warned and chided them several times, but they refused to change their ways. The conflicts between them grew. The Wine God Palace's disciples are prideful, while Pill Valley's people like to look down on others. As a result, the conflicts grew until there came a day when the Wine God Palace noticed that Pill Valley had been selling their medicinal wine behind their backs. In their fury, they directly kicked out Pill Valley's people and ceased the production of the medicinal wine. As for the Pill Valley, they had already learned the techniques for making wine, and so they didn't care. However, when they began to make their own medicinal wine, they suddenly became dumbfounded. Despite clearly knowing the formula and process of creating the wine, the effect of their medicinal wine was not even a tenth as good as the original wine from the Wine God Palace. At that time, Pill Valley finally understood that the true arts were still in their hands and that they fundamentally couldn't learn them. They tried to fix things with the Wine God Palace, but the Wine God Palace directly told them to scram, laughed Chi Hao. Amazing! The Wine God Palace's integrity is admirable, praised Long Chen. This Wine God Palace truly had guts to say such harsh words to Pill Valley. But of course, in the entire Martial Heaven continent, The number of people who would dare say such a thing to Pill Valley can be counted on one hand. Chi Hao nodded. Does the Wine God Palace have many powerful cultivators guarding it? How are they so daring? Asked Long Chen. I don't know. The Wine God Palace's disciples all focus on making wine, and they don't like interacting with the outside world. But the Wine God Palace is an extremely special existence in the entire continent. Many sect masters of large sects will go to the Wine God Palace to worship the Wine God statue and give them a tribute. The Wine God Palace will normally give them some good wine in return. It's said that the wine made by the experts of the Wine God Palace can allow a person to comprehend the heavenly Taos. It's extremely beneficial to top experts, so all the large sects treat the Wine God Palace very respectfully. Even Pill Valley doesn't dare to attack the Wine God Palace, said Chi Hao. Long Chen sighed inside. This world was truly huge, and there were many things that surpassed his imagination. Even wine had such a terrifying inheritance. I'll definitely have to take a trip to the Wine God Palace, said Long Chen with anticipation. With Brother Long's character and such astute evaluation skills, you'll definitely be welcomed by the Wine God Palace. Ah, that's right, I had something else I wanted to talk about. What did you say about the Grand Han again? Long Chen returned to the main topic. He felt like it would be very difficult to end up mediating things with the Grand Han. Learning a bit more about it now wasn't a bad thing. The Grand Han is a bunch of shameless egomaniacs. It's like they think the whole continent was made by them, as if the origin of all the culture and magical arts in this world came from them. A long time ago, the Grand Han acquired all kinds of inheritances from the Grand Xia. It was originally a cultural exchange, and the Grand Xia didn't hold back. But then they suddenly realized something was off. When the Grand Han learned something, they would start saying that they had been the original innovators. They refused to admit that they were just stealing the culture of my Grand Xia. At first, it was just a few of them saying this. In truth, the Grand Xia's men can take their vengeance. Why don't you seduce their women as well? Long Chen smiled. Brother Long, the Grand Han's confidence is overinflated. Their women always marry within their nation. Even if they were to become nothing more than a maid, they can't marry outside. If they do, not only will they be looked down upon, but their family will also never acknowledge them for the rest of their lives. However, let me tell you, the Grand Han's women, yes, they really are beautiful. There are many of them that are the tender and soft as water kind. An expression of adoration appeared on Chi Hao's face when he mentioned the Grand Han's women, as well as an expression of bitterness like feeding pigs the best cabbages. Long Chen shook his head. The Grand Han's history was truly curious. But as long as the Grand Han didn't have a good relationship with the Grand Xia, he was at ease. Right now, Long Chen didn't know that the Xian Master had already given the four great powers a slap in the face. He thought it was likely he was already on a wanted list, so he had to be careful. After chatting a bit longer with Chi Hao, they quickly finished the wine. Long Chen took out the best wine the Xintian Dao sect had to offer, but he quickly realized that this wine was like horse urine when compared to the wine they had just drunk. After getting a rough understanding of the situation within the Grand Xia, Long Chen got up to say farewell. Chi Hao directly sent Long Chen to the next checkpoint so that he didn't need to be checked twice. Brother Chi, our meeting can be considered fate, as I had an immediate sense of familiarity upon seeing you. This little one doesn't have any good gifts for you, but here is an insignificant medicinal pill. It's not worth any money, but you can keep it to remember our meeting. Long Chen gave Chi Hao a jade bottle before leaving. After drinking his fine wine and learning so much, he'd feel bad not leaving something behind. It was a common occurrence for cultivators to exchange gifts. Chi Hao didn't particularly care about it too much. He only opened the jade bottle once Long Chen was far into the distance and gone from his sight. Heavens, this is... Looking at the sparkling medicinal pill that had a small figure moving around agilely within, he realized it was a top-grade 8th-tier pill. It was a rarely seen foundation-building pill. Chi Hao's talent wasn't very good. He had attacked the foundation forging realm twice, failing both times. He no longer had any hope of advancing to foundation forging in his lifetime. But this top-grade foundation building pill allowed him to see that hope once more. Squad Captain, look at the secret report we just received from the Grand Han. When Chi Hao returned to his border city, someone gave him a sealed letter. What? One of the Grand Han's 8 princes were killed? The killer was Long Chen. Chi Hao's eyes almost popped out of his head. Equals prince, equals bastard. It's just 2 new characters inserted within the term for prince. Long Chen quickly arrived at a border town with a transportation formation. But this was just a minor transportation formation. He sat through 3 similar transportation formations as well as 1 major transportation formation before arriving at the Grand Xia ancient nation's imperial capital, Grand Xia City. The transportation formation brought him outside the city. The guards here had already reached the foundation forging realm, and their leader was a king. After paying the transportation formation and showing his identification badge again, he finally managed to enter. Once he was in Grand Xia City, he was filled with shock. It was truly worthy of being one of the Central Plains' 4 grand ancient nations. With a diameter measuring in the tens of thousands of miles, it was filled with countless soaring buildings that were both grand and luxurious, while also being simple and refined. The most shocking thing to Long Chen was that each one of these buildings had countless formation runes on them that released immense pressure. Just any random building had terrifying defensive power, and there was no need to say anything about the city walls. As the capital of the Grand Xia, this was a no-flying zone. Everyone had to walk. Long Chen saw countless experts as he walked through the streets. He even saw Hall Master-level experts just aimlessly wandering. Hall Master-level experts were not rare, kings were everywhere, and foundation forging and below were as common as dogs. Long Chen's eyes had truly been opened to the world. Within Grand Xia City, these figures that could shake the outside world were common citizens strolling around. He followed the central street forward, seeing all kinds of buildings. There were quite a few with signboards saying they were from such and such a sect or power. These were buildings that various powers had established in the Grand Xia. Many sects had side businesses in Grand Xia City, but whether they were selling or buying things from within their borders, they had to pay a certain tax. Regretfully, Long Chen was still unaware of this, but the Shintian Dao sect did not have any businesses in Grand Xia City. They had had such a business many years ago, but recently, the Shintian Dao sect had been unable to make ends meet, and they hadn't had any special things to sell. Setting up a shop in this place was too expensive, so they left. Long Chen asked around, and after an hour of traveling, he appeared at a fork in the road. Going right, it wasn't long before he saw a dome. He smiled. Huayun Auction House. When those bright golden words appeared in his eyes, Long Chen knew he had found his target. Walking inside, he directly took out a jade tablet that Zheng Wenlong had given him. The owner quickly came to see Long Chen in a private room. This auction house just so happened to be a branch business that Zheng Wenlong was in charge of. He knew that these people were all Zheng Wenlong's trusted aides, so he didn't waste any time. He directly asked the owner where the original Devil Race's headquarters was. He quickly received a map and saw that it was just a few streets away. When he arrived there, he found out that it was a refinery. This was a refinery business that only made treasure items and below. Within Grand Xia City that had countless high-level forging places, such a small business would find it difficult even surviving. Its business would be dismal. However, this refinery not only made treasure items and below, but it also made various other items such as furniture. Their craftsmanship was exquisite, and there was the occasional wealthy person with status who wanted to buy some of their wares. Their business didn't look too bad on the surface. "Senior, may I help you?" Long Chen had only just entered when a maiden seeming to look around 16 years old greeted him. Looking at her, Long Chen sensed an indescribable aura within her eyes. He smiled. Yes, this was the original Devil Race's specific aura. He was very familiar with it. Mi Shihaweya. Seeing there were no other guests within the refinery, he quietly whispered to her. Shock filled the maiden's eyes, but she quickly collected herself and said, "Come with me." Long Chen followed her deeper into the refinery. They passed all kinds of weapon storehouses before appearing in a large space with dozens of smiths dripping with sweat, right in the midst of forging something. Entering a separate room, a dozen experts were currently chatting while holding weapons in their hands. When Long Chen and the maiden entered, these experts looked at them indifferently, but Long Chen could clearly sense their nervousness. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen. Suddenly, one of them stood up and looked at Long Chen with delight. You are? Long Chen didn't recognize this person. Did you forget? In the immemorial path, we met when you were with the sacred daughter. Greetings, senior apprentice brother Long Chen. Hearing that he was Long Chen, those experts suddenly dropped their weapons, kneeling toward him with one knee on the ground and raising their right hands over their chests in an ancient etiquette. There's no need for this, said Long Chen awkwardly. He wasn't used to this kind of etiquette. How could men so easily kneel to others? Long Chen wouldn't kneel to others, so he wasn't able to accept it when others knelt toward him. Senior apprentice brother, the leader has said that you are our benefactor. Everything we have is because of you, so we are eternally grateful, said one of the original devil race's experts. Looking at these sincere faces and their eyes that seemed to reveal the depths of their hearts, Long Chen could clearly sense their feelings. He couldn't help but feel emotional. In this world, there weren't that many people who knew how to be grateful. Ever since he had risen in the Phoenix Cry Empire, he had shown grace and favor to countless people. Although he never did that while expecting something in return, some people received other people's kindness and simply treated it as if that was natural, as if other people owed them. Compared to them, the original devil race's experts gratified him. As long as you remember this in your hearts, it's fine. There's no need to say it with your mouths, or it won't mean as much. Long Chen patted the one who spoke on the shoulder. These were true men worthy of respect. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen, I should bring you to see the elder. The rest of you, don't delay senior apprentice brother's proper business. The maiden smiled. Ah, you must be busy, senior apprentice brother Long Chen. You should go handle what you need to first. Those experts felt bad for taking up his precious time. Alright, then I'll go greet senior first. When I have time, let's drink together. Long Chen smiled and followed the maiden down a twisting corridor. After passing through a secret door, he finally reached a secret room where a man was currently meditating. Only when the door was opened did he slowly open his eyes. Just as he opened his eyes, Long Chen felt like two sharp blades had shot toward him. Although there was no danger, that sharp aura was impossible to conceal. What a powerful expert! And his cultivation base is still at the Hall Master level. Long Chen was shocked. This person's aura showed he was at the Hall Master level, and yet he was the strongest expert on that level that Long Chen had ever seen. The original devil race's Yu Minghan greets our benefactor. This expert also knelt on the ground and took that strange posture just like the others had. Senior, I can't accept this. Long Chen immediately raised him up. He was completely unused to this kind of etiquette. He bitterly smiled. Senior, can we skip this kind of custom? I don't like restrictions, and having so much propriety makes me feel unnatural. The expert stood and smiled faintly. This etiquette must be carried out at least the first time. It's so that we always remember who has helped us. If you don't like it, this etiquette can be waived in the future. Then let's hurry up and waive it. Such a thing takes up too much time and we have real problems to handle. Senior, you can call me Seventh Elder. Alright, Seventh Elder, I just want to ask, is Xiaoqian here? Long Chen missed her greatly after being apart for so long. That was especially true when he thought of how he had parted with her in the Eastern Wasteland. Her eyes had been full of tears. He wanted to see her now. After you left the Eastern Wasteland, Xiaoqian returned to the skyscraping world. Under the race leader's arrangements, she entered seclusion and has yet to exit, said the Seventh Elder. Why would she have to be in seclusion for so long? Long Chen was startled. It had been over a year, and she had been in seclusion the entire time? She is in my original devil race's ancestral inheritance land. Before she has condensed a devil core, your so-called jade core realm, she cannot come out. Isn't that crazy? Why must she go all out like this? There are two major realms to go from Sea Expansion to Jade Core. Xiaoqian is doing it for you. Only once she condenses a devil core will she be able to conceal her identity from the eyes of life star experts. She wishes to reunite with you as soon as possible. This is also why Xiaoyu stopped Xiaoqian from going with you to the Central Plains. If she did, constantly being under the eyes of life star realm experts would be extremely dangerous. If they were to do a close examination of her, she would definitely be exposed. Then it would be dangerous for all of you. Alright, then I'll just wait for her. Seventh Elder, here are some higher-level heavenly Tao fruits I gathered. Those brothers and sisters in the outside world will be a bit safer with them. Long Chen handed the Seventh Elder a spatial ring. When Long Chen had sent Cloud back to the Shintian Dao sect, he had given it a spatial ring containing the 6th and 7th rank heavenly Tao fruits he had gained this time. There had been 6 rank 7 heavenly Tao fruits gained this time. 2 of them had come from the slain Hall Master level experts. As for the rank 6 heavenly Tao fruits, they numbered in the hundreds. Right now, he only had a pile of rank 5 and below heavenly Tao fruits, and he gave them all to the 7th Elder. He asked about the original devil race's current situation. Right now, they had started spreading throughout the world. Although they didn't dare to openly purchase certain resources, they were gathering several things that the skyscraping world was lacking through various channels. Everything was going well. Long Chen was relieved to hear all this. Saying goodbye, he set off for the Wine God Palace. But halfway there, he suddenly came to a stop. He sensed a familiar aura. Hey, watch where you're going. You bumped me. Long Chen walked forward quickly and ended up bumped by someone on the road. As a result, he stumbled back, crashing into a wooden-faced man. What are you talking about? You're the one who bumped into me. Raged the person who Long Chen had bumped into. But then sensing Long Chen's aura, he swallowed his curses. Long Chen was at Foundation Forging, while he was just at Sea Expansion. Long Chen was 1 full level higher, and this person had no powerful backer. What am I talking about? I'll tell you what. I'm advancing straight forward, but you came from that doorway and turned left. I'm going straight, but you're turning left. Just who is blind? Long Chen began to solemnly scold the person. At this time, Long Chen's appearance had already been changed by some medicinal extract. When he had crashed into the second person, he had thrown out a tiny bit of colorless, odorless powder that had stuck to the wooden-faced person. As Long Chen scolded the person who had bumped into him, he used his soul to keep watch over the second one. This person suspiciously looked around after Long Chen had crashed into him. For a moment, he stared at the petty little marketplace person who Long Chen seemed to be. He directly left. Left-turners have to yield to people going straight, understand? What? You don't understand. Fine, I'm too lazy to argue with you. This can count as my compensation. Seeing that the wooden-faced person had already left, Long Chen tossed a medicinal pill to the person he was arguing with and vanished. Don't run. What are you talking about? You're clearly the one who bumped into me. And do you think I care about your compensation? Don't think some money, what the fuck? A 9-ring foundation building pill? It really must be nice having money. Hey, don't go just yet. Brother, do you want to keep bumping into me? Seeing the foundation building pill, he immediately tried to suck up to Long Chen, but he had long since vanished. Long Chen used some faint fluctuations to follow the wooden-faced man from a distance. He knew that he was an assassin from the Bloodkill Hall. Having been targeted by them for a long time and after interacting with them for so long, the 9-star Hegemon body art would automatically sense them once they got close, whether or not they wanted to kill him. That was why Long Chen had used a secret method to place a mark on him without anyone being the wiser. This mark couldn't possibly be sensed by others, because it was made from the primal chaos space's soil and dust. Only Long Chen could sense it. HM? How sly, he's starting to loop around. Long Chen suddenly stopped because he sensed something was wrong. He decided to hide in a tea house and drink tea. He sensed the assassin loop around the surroundings 5 times before walking in a certain direction. He didn't sense me. It's just a professional habit. Seeing him pay attention to all the surrounding people, Long Chen knew he was making sure no one was following him. In the end, he entered a narrow alley that eventually led to a casino. Inside, there were countless people. These shameful people actually used a casino to hide their identity? Long Chen smiled coldly. He wiped off his disguise, revealing his true face, and also walked in. "Sir, do you have an appointment, or are you just dropping in?" As soon as Long Chen walked in, an enthusiastic woman came to greet him, one wearing very revealing clothes. The makeup on her face was practically as thick as a copper coin, and just speaking caused the makeup powder to fall. But the most exaggerated thing was the slit in her dress. Most dresses would only show the lower leg. Even the women in brothels would only show their upper leg at most. But the slit in her dress continued all the way to her armpit. She looked to be in her 30s, and she was not a cultivator. This casino was very low-end. It catered to some low-level cultivators and gamblers. A person's youth never returned, and these people had no choice but to rely on gambling to make money. It wasn't easy for them. "I've come to find someone. You can busy yourself." Long Chen tossed her 10 gold coins, delighting her. As for the hired thugs guarding the door, seeing that Long Chen was this generous with his money and didn't seem like he would cause trouble, they ignored him. Long Chen was suddenly struck by the stench of alcohol, sweat, and feet. As he advanced, he quickly saw a man look at him with shock. That man suddenly extended a hand to touch the wall. A blood-colored saber cut off his arm. His hand had been just a few inches from touching a button on the wall, but it fell to the ground. Quite a few people in the casino screamed and ran. The first thing they thought was that someone had come to destroy the casino. That person immediately slammed his other hand toward the button, but as a result, the blood-colored saber once more slashed out, cutting off his other arm. This button was used for ringing the alarm. Long Chen lazily rested Blood Drinker on his shoulder. "Let me give you an idea. If you don't have your arms, you can try it with your head." The reason Long Chen had exposed his true face upon entering the casino was because he had wanted to accurately tell who was from the Blood Kill Hall. He knew that any members of the Blood Kill Hall had to recognize him. The facts proved that he was right, because this person was only at the blood condensation realm. He hadn't sensed anything from him because he wasn't even a real assassin. He could only count as an outer worker of the Blood Kill Hall and hadn't cultivated in the Blood Kill Hall's assassination arts. A berserk expression appeared in that person's eyes, and his throat suddenly bulged as he prepared to shout. However, he didn't succeed. Blood splashed through the air. In your next life, don't get brainwashed by others. Long Chen shook his head. He pointed a finger at the bodiless head. Taking advantage of when his soul had yet to scatter, he completed an instantaneous soul search. Long Chen walked along the wall and found a side door. Entering, he saw a passage that led outside. It looked like an ordinary back door. But on the wall of this passage, from a place where the gamblers in the casino had no clear line of sight, Long Chen pressed down 3 times. A door suddenly opened in the wall. This stone door seamlessly blended into the wall. Even if you were to look carefully, you wouldn't be able to tell it existed without opening it. Once he walked in, the stone door immediately closed. The path in front of him continued downwards. With Blood Drinker on his shoulder, Long Chen continued onward through the underground passage. "You dash!" One of the Blood Kill Hall's disciples just happened to be walking out from further in when he saw Long Chen. He only got one word out before being killed. The foundation forging expert fell just like that. "Who's there?" The disturbance immediately caused an alarm, and quite a few people came out from deeper in the passageway. Long Chen raised his left hand and pointed his finger. Lightning arrows shot out. Those Blood Kill Hall disciples had no ability to dodge within this narrow passageway. They were all blown apart. All you're capable of is sneak attacking people from behind. In a head-on fight, you're just pigs, sneered Long Chen. Suddenly, a fierce astral wind attacked Long Chen. This attack should have come from a king. Split the heavens 3. Boom. The underground passageway collapsed. A berserk energy raged through the exploding ground, and it was unknown how many of the Blood Kill Hall's experts were killed without even knowing what was going on. The sudden explosion of the ground and powerful auras startled all of Grand Xia City. Countless experts rushed over to see what was happening. The ruins exploded, and one of the Bloodkill Hall's kings charged out. Before he could even understand what was happening, a lightning arrow struck his body, causing it to explode. Suddenly, a bolt of light stabbed toward Long Chen's back. As for Long Chen, he was still standing with Blood Drinker resting on his shoulder. Just at this moment, a hand covered in green scales caught the sword aiming for his back. The Bloodkill Hall's king's expression changed. He pulled several times but was unable to retrieve his sword. Suddenly, his sword began to shine with blinding light. "Are you an idiot? Do you think I'd just stand here and let you activate your king item?" Long Chen sneered, hacking Blood Drinker down and killing the king. The king didn't even have a corpse after Blood Drinker struck him. In truth, this move of Long Chen's had been very evil. He had intentionally forced the king into despair and then left him time to activate his king item. And just as he did, Long Chen attacked, making it so the king had no idea whether he should continue or abandon his weapon and flee. Caught in his indecision, he was killed easily. At this time, countless experts stood in the surroundings, looking at Long Chen with shock. He dared to fight in Grand Xia City? Did he not want his life? It had to be known that it was forbidden to use force in Grand Xia City. Not even flying was permitted. The thing that shocked them the most was that Long Chen was clearly at the early Foundation forging realm, but he had killed a king so easily and without even batting an eye. The runes below exploded, and a miserable figure shot out. It was a white-haired elder with an aura that surged turbulently. A soul transformation expert. The experts drawn over were shocked. A soul transformation expert was a hall master-level expert, but outside of sex, people called them according to their realm. These people were shocked to see this expert's aura fluctuating extremely intensely. "Oh, I'm so sorry, it seems I've disturbed your seclusion. My sincere apologies." Long Chen apologized without the slightest sincerity as he looked at the expert's aura that was constantly jumping up and down out of control. Long Chen. The elder was startled to see that it was Long Chen, and he ended up directly coughing up blood. He had been in seclusion attacking a barrier when Long Chen's attack had disturbed him. Being forced out of his meditative state almost caused his cultivation base to flare out of his control. He had almost died. Die! The Bloodkill Hall's soul transformation expert roared and stabbed his sword into the sky. An ear-piercing sound rang out as he slashed his sword at Long Chen. Long Chen didn't dare to be careless against a soul transformation expert. He slashed Blood Drinker out, unleashing a huge saber image. Right now, he didn't have the Dragon Tiger Heavenly Explosion Pills effect multiplying his power, and he would be at an immense disadvantage against a soul transformation expert. But the reason he dared to attack one of the Bloodkill Hall's strongholds on his own was naturally because he had something else he could count on. Long Chen repeatedly unleashed dozens of saber images that crashed against the Bloodkill Hall's soul transformation expert sword. Heaven-shaking explosions rang out. Just one slash of the soul transformation expert's sword shattered all his saber images, but because of the saber image's power, the soul transformation expert's locking power faded, and Long Chen regained his freedom. "You damn brat, I'll tear you apart limb by limb," roared the soul transformation expert. His hair was standing on end, his eyes were red, and he looked insane. Right now, he needed to suppress the turbulent spiritual yuan inside his body while also fighting Long Chen. His combat power was less than a third of his peak, and with his aura out of his control, he couldn't lock down his opponent. Otherwise, if a soul transformation expert unleashed their immense pressure, a foundation forging disciple like Long Chen would find himself unable to move and be instantly killed. But now, he needed to spend a great deal of effort just to go toe-to-toe against Long Chen. Most hateful of all, because he had been startled right at the critical moment when he had been attacking the next barrier, his aura was completely chaotic, and there were signs it was starting to go completely out of his control. "Old idiot, what are you screaming for? Your Bloodkill Hall has been targeting me for many years, but did I ever shout like this? Grow up a bit." All I did was take the initiative to attack you first this time, sneered Long Chen. Long Chen could already tell what was going on with this elder. Originally, he had been thinking of running, but now it seemed he didn't need to. Long Chen repeatedly unleashed saber images to keep his opponent back. He refused to face him head-on and kept on sending saber chi as he dodged. He's from the Bloodkill Hall? Several people in the crowd saw through some clues. The Bloodkill Hall actually dared to stay within Grand Xia City? Are they trying to be killed? 1800 years ago, the Bloodkill Hall assassinated one of the Grand Xia's princes. At that time, the Grand Xia announced that any of the Bloodkill Hall's people found in their territory would be put to death. The spectating people couldn't help but discuss things as Long Chen fought against the Bloodkill Hall's soul transformation expert. The little alley they had first appeared in had long since been destroyed. But the surrounding buildings were protected by powerful formation runes, and despite the two of them unleashing saber chi and sword chi, their attacks actually rebounded on contact with the buildings. This was the Grand Xia's powerful foundation. Each of their ancient buildings was protected. They were incredibly difficult to destroy. Furthermore, the ancient buildings were linked to the Imperial Palace's Grand Formation. If the buildings were attacked by supreme experts, the Grand Formation would activate, and then even a soul transformation expert would be unable to damage them, unless that soul transformation expert possessed a divine item. As for someone like the Bloodkill Hall's soul transformation expert, let alone in his current state where his power was just a third of what it was normally, he wouldn't be able to damage the buildings even in his peak state. Who is that youngster? What terrifying battle senses and experience! Long Chen and the soul transformation expert were so fast that it was almost impossible to track them with the naked eye. The Bloodkill Hall's expert's moves were refined and vicious, as well as strange and crafty. There were many times when he would launch a sudden attack from Long Chen's blind spot which made the spectators' hearts shiver. Although the Bloodkill Hall is a group of shameful people, their assassination arts are truly supreme. Even though he's fighting head-on, he still has such crafty moves that could easily catch a person off guard and kill them, sighed another soul transformation expert. More and more people were coming, and even the soul transformation experts were moved by the battle. These assassins' moves were different from ordinary people's. Each of them was deadly, and sometimes several of his moves would be a continuous death trap. Just watching him fight made people's hearts pound. If they weren't personally watching, no one would dare to believe there could be such sharp and terrifying killing arts. And yet, no matter how sharp his moves were, no matter how crafty his attacks were, Long Chen would dodge them with the lightning body blink. Lightning runes revolved around him as he always just narrowly dodged his opponent's killing blows. Quite a few people were watching while sweating profusely for Long Chen. It looked like Long Chen was dancing on the tip of a blade. He might die at any moment. But Long Chen's expression was still indifferent, and there wasn't the slightest fear or panic in his eyes. He moved smoothly like the clouds in the air or water flowing in the river. He advanced and retreated, attacked and defended without the slightest awkwardness. That indifferent expression made people's scalps numb, but it was also exciting to watch. "Do you only know how to run?" roared the Bloodkill Hall expert. He had attacked Long Chen multiple times only to be skillfully evaded by him. Long Chen refused to face him head-on, infuriating him endlessly. He already knew that he would die today. Now that the Bloodkill Hall's secret stronghold had been exposed, considering their enmity with the Grand Xia, it would be very difficult for him to run. But before dying, his only desire was to kill Long Chen and remove a scourge with limitless potential for the Bloodkill Hall. News that Bloodkill 19 had failed and instead been killed by Long Chen had already reached the headquarters of the Bloodkill Hall. Right now, Long Chen was classified as their #1 target. Considering how even some outer workers could recognize Long Chen, it could be seen just how great Long Chen's fame was in the Bloodkill Hall. This secret stronghold's purpose had been to keep watch over the Grand Xia's movements. The Bloodkill Hall also offered to sell some information in addition to assassinating people. This was the Bloodkill Hall's specialty. That was because assassinating a person required knowing their status, cultivation base, strengths, habits, etc. They would even go through their family history. So selling information was also an important business of the Bloodkill Hall. But for them to have established a secret stronghold right within Grand Xia City was a huge slap in the face to the Grand Xia ancient nation. But these assassins were also smart. They were profoundly aware of what it meant to hide within the dark beneath the light. They established themselves right in the imperial capital, and no one except Long Chen had sensed them for hundreds of years. Do you have any face left? Could it be that all your years of cultivation were spent on thickening your skin? You are a soul transformation expert, and yet you're attacking me, a mere foundation forging rookie. That's innately shameful. Moreover, you're actually unable to do anything to me, and so you use psychological warfare against me, a junior who is not even a fraction of your age. I, Long Chen, started cultivating quite a few years ago, but I've never seen someone as shameless as you, cursed Long Chen. Long Chen could see the huge problem with his opponent, and he knew continuing to exhaust him was the best option. However, Long Chen hadn't expected him to be so shameless as to goad him into fighting head-on against him. Was he joking? The distant spectators also looked at him oddly. The fellow soul transformation experts had helpless expressions. This Bloodkill Hall expert had lost face for them as fellow soul transformation experts. But then thinking about it, they supposed attacking people from behind was the natural habit of the assassins of the Bloodkill Hall. For their goals, they didn't care about the methods, and that was why the Bloodkill Hall was held in great contempt by most people. Being assassins in itself wasn't a fault, but they simply had no bottom line at all. That was what was despicable. At this time, a handsome man in violet robes was escorted over with a group of experts. He appeared to be around 25 years old, and he was currently watching Long Chen's intense battle against the Bloodkill Hall's expert. Your Highness, should we go and capture the Bloodkill Hall's expert? They really go too far, said a middle-aged man beside that man. There's no need. Let's just watch for a bit. I'm very interested in this Long Chen. That man shook his head. This man was the Grand Xia's 8th prince, Xia Yunchong. The people around him were his guards, and 2 of them had reached the soul transformation realm. Other than the guards, a white-haired elder was standing beside Xia Yunchong. This elder's eyes had been closed in meditation this entire time, as if nothing in the outside world could interest him. Master, what do you think about this Long Chen? Asked Xia Yunchong respectfully. Only then did the elder open his eyes. Shockingly, his eyes were completely turbid like an old man's. And yet, they also seemed to contain a certain primal energy. The elder looked at Long Chen's figure. The turbidness in his eyes gradually faded like dirty water was being purified. The elder slowly said, I cannot see through him. After saying that, the elder closed his eyes once more. But then he said one last thing. Do your best not to offend him. Xia Yunchong and the guard were all startled. Just who was this Long Chen to obtain such a terrifying appraisal? It had to be known that this elder was Xia Yunchong's Tao protector. He was an incredibly powerful existence, and yet he was unable to give an evaluation of this youth in front of him? And in the end he even told them not to offend him. Master, said Xia Yunchong. The elder's eyes were still closed as he cut him off. The world's countless existences exist within the heavenly Taos. But there are a few existences that cannot be spoken of. Disciple understands. Xia Yunchong's heart shook and he hastily bowed. The elder nodded and no longer spoke. His eyes were still closed as if he was meditating. He didn't possess the slightest aura, and if you weren't looking at him, you might not even be able to sense his existence. Bloodkill Hall, how brazen of you! Do you think my Grand Xia has no one who can handle you? Just as Long Chen was fighting the soul transformation expert, a beautiful figure appeared in the air. Why would she come here? Xia Yunchong couldn't help but frown. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.